forget about it if I don't ask it.
Hey man, I'm all about that. I did keep notebooks, and I would give my guests notebooks, and then one of my guests was like, "This is kind of distracting," so I stopped doing it. And I was just like, "But I dig it." I saw a podcast, and that's what they were doing. And
Like some people though, man, like you'll sit there, you want to have a thought. Because I think the good podcasts are ones that not are scripted, but the ones that like, hey, this comes up, and I want to ask this. You have good cover. You don't want to break it. Sometimes you're like, I want to hear what they're going to say. They'll go out in places. And
yeah, I just like, people always ask me like, hey, well, what are we going to talk? And sometimes I do a themed show like, hey, well, we're listening to the new Tool album or whatever it is. But most of the time it's just, well, we're just going to roll with it and see what happens. So, yeah.
You can ask me anything. I'm pretty open book.
Man, I got some questions, and I definitely want to hear what you I want to hear your story more than anything. So I'll give you a quick intro. Episode 45 of Life Unraveled. Rob Hefley here. You have a podcast and many other things. Kind of an entrepreneurial spirit like myself. So we know a lot of the same people. You've trained at my gym a little bit, and
I've been injured for the last 6 months, though. It's my own doing, not the gym's doing.
Man, we've talked about it. I've just been getting over like serious neck and shoulder pain, and it's been nice to not have pain. I
had an MRI last week. I'm feeling good now, though. Hopefully, he releases me to do whatever. But it's been like 6 months. I went through PT with my knee and then my back and neck.
You've had some knee surgeries?
No, I didn't have knee surgery. It's like they started hurting so bad I couldn't hardly walk.
Yeah,
but I was being stupid, and I've had several wrecks. That's what my doctor, when they did the x-rays, like, you've been in a lot of wrecks? I'm like, a few. It's there.
Yeah.
I misspent youth, though. I mean, this part of, now it's starting to come to me.
Did you ever have a three-wheeler wreck? That's the question.
I had my first three-wheeler when I was 4.
When I was a kid, I avoided any wrecks on the three-wheeler, but somebody the other day, maybe it was on the podcast, was telling me this atrocious story of a three-wheeler wreck they got into, and I was like, oh, man.
You remember those little Yamaha 70s?
Yeah.
Well, my parents, we lived in Newton County, north of here, in the middle of nowhere. My dad bought one. First day I had it out there, I was jumping terraces, 4 years old. First day, went over first terrace, hit the second one, end over end, and I laid there like, oh, God, I'm about to die. And I was like, anybody see me? And nobody saw me. I was like, well, I'm not telling them because I don't want them to take it away from me. And I got up but that was the first day I had it, which is, me. I'm really good about wrecking stuff.
You said you were 4.
Yep.
Just get the start off with the bang, man. Early phase of life. Just start having wrecks. Yeah. I broke my collarbone when I first started training jiu-jitsu. The first judo seminar I ever went to, I broke my collarbone. I've dislocated both my middle fingers, but other than that, I've been pretty fortunate to not have any breaks. Or I had a hernia repair, but I hadn't really had any surgeries either. So
I broke my collarbone when I was 4. I was in a trailer behind a three-wheeler, which sounds really safe. My brother wrecked it, and
oh man,
so that was the only bone. It's the only bone I've ever broke, but a lot of I
think a common injury too. The collarbone is just not constructed well.
Yeah. Now I got plenty of fat. And kind of, I feel like protected now.
Yeah, so so you're a pretty active guy, even in spite of you having an injury. I feel like since I've known you, I see you post on Facebook, and were you always as active as you are now?
No, I went through periods up and down. Then I went through periods where I worked all the time and got really fat. And I've always liked to be active. I love basketball. I was in the Army Reserves when I was younger. Different things. Then I guess about 10 years ago, I really started trying to go back. I didn't have to work 80 hours a week, kind of making that transition. And I always liked trauma bonds. That's one of the reasons I loved CrossFit. I love, in jiu-jitsu, I think anything where you're like struggling together, you're suffering together. And that's what, like me and Ryan did a Go Ruck last year together.
Oh, yeah, my buddy Eric does rucks all the time.
Horrible thing. I'm like, why did I put myself into this? I did a half marathon, which I was like, I think that's even dumber. I don't think I've ever cramped like that in my life.
Did you do the Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Did you train for it and everything?
Yeah, I trained for it, and I felt like I was probably pretty good, but a couple days before, I drank a little bit of beer and hung out with my friends way too late and wasn't hydrated. And I was like 7 minutes ahead of Jessica at the halfway point, and she caught me at mile 9. I was cramping so bad.
Do you know Brandon Motley?
Yeah, I love Brandon.
He's been on my podcast
Jesus
before. Yeah, Jesus. I've been calling him Green Jeans because he's a game warden now.
I know.
And he told me that that's something that people jokingly call game wardens. I didn't even know, but he off the couch one time was just like, I'll train a little jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna run in this Las Vegas half marathon. He like to have died, man. He was just like, he crossed the finish line and was just wiped, full body cramp. I mean, it was vicious for him.
This is how bad it was, because I have a lot of pride in beating Jessica. I talk trash, She came up to me and I was cramping so bad to go from my quads to my hams, my calves. I looked like I was like this old man, just kind of like back and forth.
Oh wow!
And Plexus had sent a documentary guy there to film this flew in. So I was like, I've got to finish the race. Looking like a man. So you ever heard Jocko's Good speech?
Good.
I got that and started playing it over and over in my head. I sit there, I found it, and I was like, I can do that,
Can't stand up straight.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, that's what I was like, and I have to show you the video. It's in the video too, because you see me going across, and I was going, thank God I got glasses. I was like clenching my teeth, and the guy's got the camera like right up in my face, and Jessica's like there to give me a kiss, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to die.
Were you pumped though? Like, did you have like an overwhelming sense of like, I did it?
Oh, I think, finishing, man, the Las Vegas, if you're going to run a half marathon, run it. Because people are cheering you on, like loving you. And it's like
it
the
is a
best
big
one.
community event around here, man.
Yeah. We've sponsored it for a couple of years before that. And I was excited. I was glad I got to do that and say, hey, at least I did it one time. And I did the sprint try too, the Las Vegas sprint try. It was another one that, man, swimming. I'm a horrible swimmer, like a redneck swimmer. I can swim like 20 yards and do really good, but then I have no energy.
I got a mean doggy paddle, dude.
That's what it looked like. There was a chick that started 5 minutes behind me and beat me. And you can't see anything because, you're training in a pool and you get out there, you don't see nothing. I about drowned 3 people, sitting there chopping real hard at them. And I was like, man, I'm going to kill somebody, because my long arms, I would go real hard strokes into it, and I'd hit somebody and push them down. I could feel them going down.
Wow, yeah.
I was like, I want to learn how to swim better, just because I was like, I'm not a good swimmer.
There's this guy that's been coming to the gym. It's I talk about him on the podcast quite a bit, but I got to tell you about him. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He's 72. He's like lifelong martial artist from the Philippines, but he is a big time swimmer, and he's always like, dude, check out how this breaststroke's like my kata. And it's like, he talks about swimming like every time we train together. He's coming and doing my jiu-jitsu class. He's like, his highest rank that I know about is a 6th degree in judo, black belt.
That's awesome.
And he's a 3rd degree in aikido, and he's comes to my jiu-jitsu class, wears a white belt, and shows me how to kill people while he's there. Like, we go off to the side and stay late, but he is always talking about swimming, and he does it every morning.
I think, man, it's one of the best exercises. I trained it out there for a while. When I was doing like brick training, I would go ride my bike or run, then swim. And swimming is the hardest thing especially if you're not doing it right. And that's when I watched videos and I had somebody, watch how to sit there. But naturally, one of our arms is strong than the other. Mm-hmm. You got to learn how to breathe. I mean, it's like, if you're not breathing, you're going to sit there. You're going to just like your body.
People in jiu-jitsu, I've heard Eddie Bravo, for example, speak of this, talk about the cardio being similar to jiu-jitsu, and how you get almost in a state of, or a breathing pattern that is similar to a state of hyperventilation.
It really is. Like I said, you had your head down long enough, and you're supposed to come up just perfectly and not suck in water,
Oh, man.
But people, man, that are good at it, especially if you out there, you see somebody like going past you, like lapping you like 4 times, you're like, shut, I hate you. You want to like go drown them. But they just make it look easy.
Yeah.
It's just like jiu-jitsu. You see somebody just flows really easy and makes it, and you're like, man, how do they do that? I can't even lay down that easy.
It is. It's remarkable. And like what I tell people is the mind blows, they never have stopped for me. Like every year that I do jiu-jitsu, I experience that in some way. They're fewer the longer I do it, but still, like training with people like Hickson and offshoots of his style of jiu-jitsu, I see, and in like a lot of his stuff, you've got to like have somebody there that's like, if it's something you don't know, like, hey, yeah, here's this technique about, but let me put my hip on you in this way. You feel that? And you're like, yeah. And it's they call it invisible jiu-jitsu because you do have to, a lot of times you have to feel it, or you have to be able to, like, so once they teach you that concept, I've been able to associate the concept with other situations. So that's been a game changer. But that we had this guy in last year, Jack Toffer from Southern California. He's been on the podcast, and he just blew my mind with the most basic. It's like the sweep I learned first. It's like, hey, here's a way to do it. If they stop it, you just do this and it still works. And like, that was and it was like a sweep I learned day one when I was a white belt. And it just like, that was the biggest mind-blowing event I've had recently. But it was like, man, and then he showed some other basic sweep like that I'd never seen before. And like, I'm like a historian of jiu-jitsu too. I wrote my master's thesis on martial arts history. So he showed some technique I never showed before. It was the easiest technique I'd ever seen or done. And like all these other techniques, I was just like, man, I know nothing. And I'm 13 years in and do it every day.
I think that there's a humility there. Like I was doing the podcast with Ryan Sunday night, and I had one of his guys he trained with in the Marine Corps. The guy did like pistol, and Ryan did hand-to-hand combat. And Ryan's one of those people like, man, I don't know if you know him very well. He won't talk about himself, but he's got the Marine Corps belt. He's got like the Navy belt, the Army belt. He's got the Special Forces belt. And
he's got the brown belt.
But he should have a black belt. But he talks, I'm like, dude, we're talking about, he's like, I can't do certain stuff because I'm a black. I'm like, he's been training for like probably 15 years. I was like, the same school. I was like, understand, but he'll sit there and show me something, like, or do something. And he'll sometimes be like knife fighting or something, or he'll like mess with me.
We did knives last night actually in jiu-jitsu.
And like I was in one class, we were doing messing with him. And he's like had my markers, his knives, showing up, how, and people like all marked up all over their faces and talking about how just that part of stuff. And I'm like, I didn't ever think about that, And he's just that there's a humility I think comes with maturity and those things that you start to sit there, people start to master something more. He was like, I don't know it all. There's more to learn. And
oh, I know. And it's, I crave things like learning things like that will never end, like playing guitar or music theory, like I like music theory, and chaining together my jiu-jitsu techniques are real similar. It's just a repetitive thing. You can move it around, reorganize it, do it forward and backwards. That's
what I like about your YouTube videos, though, because a lot of times when you're doing something to train a move, you'll go back and forth and not stop. It won't just be like, I do this, but you'll do it onto each other. Like you'll show both sides how to come out of it. And that's really, I think a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, there's a flow with that. You can keep going and use this exact same thing almost always was being used on you at that time if you know what you're doing. I think the one you did there yesterday, I was sitting there watching that because you guys are going back and forth, And a lot of times people, because I think jiu-jitsu now is way better known. I think Joe Rogan's helped out a lot.
We signed up a guy yesterday, and I said, how'd you hear about jiu-jitsu? And he was like, Joe Rogan's podcast, man. I was like, heck yeah, dude.
Dude, between jiu-jitsu, smoking weed, and bow hunting.
DMT also.
And he was like influencing people. I was like, there's people going bow hunting that never hunted before and buying, like Jocko went bow hunting this year.
Or just that understand conservation more.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love how he's just such a source of education for so many, like the guests that he has on. There was a guy, David Sinclair. Did you watch that episode?
I haven't heard that.
Okay. I would recommend this. He's a longevity scientist. So he's like, hey, you want to live longer? Here's some things. And it's super interesting because the guy his specialty is ensuring that you don't have an untimely death. And he's in this, it's like a big field where they're calculating like death dates and stuff. It's kind of wild.
That's risk management there. That's what like his stuff too, man. Like talking about conservation there. Like I killed a deer Monday night.
Oh, nice.
And in my yard, pretty much, or like my 6 acres beside me, skinned it in front of my kids. They're not scarred yet. 7 and 4. And Judson's gonna have the head, Dad. And I was like, yeah, we can have that. But I sit there, took it in. My wife's from the north, from Illinois. It's like she's not redneck, So
Abraham
I take it in.
Lincoln.
Yeah, I take it in there on the platter and start cooking backstrap right there in the.
Nice.
So it was like the great. I was like, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is the best. That's not. I was like, I wouldn't kill a doe just to be killing a doe. I was like, I wanted to eat this little.
Oh, the tenderloin is so good. Anytime my dad kills one, he usually gives me a couple of straps a year, and I love doing Like deer tenderloin, like biscuits and gravy, man. That's the way to go. That's good.
I just sit there, ate that, and I took some the next day to my mom, and she cooked fried potatoes, beans, cornbread. I mean, I'm like total redneck with that, you know.
Oh, dude, I'm always after Cora to cook more beans, man. I'm just like, we got some pinto beans. She doesn't have a cornbread recipe. We're still super, like, we've been together for a long time, but we've only lived in this house for a couple of years, and have like, it gets more home, we get more meals and everything, recipes.
Well, Jessica doesn't like beans, so I cook them when she's gone usually, or get my mom to cook a big pot.
Cora doesn't like beans either, man. Must be a girl thing. We just don't care. We're like, yeah, it makes our stomach weird. Okay?
I'll eat them for like for a week. I don't care.
She likes black beans. I really like black beans too, but I mean, I like good pinto beans, and my dad will make like pinto beans and homemade cornbread.
Yeah. See, we grew up, we lived in Newton County until my parents got divorced. Like, we had a huge garden, killed hogs, had a huge hog farm, cows, and they still killed hogs outside. And my mom would cook like the cornbread on the stove, like a real cornmeal.
In like a Dutch oven?
No, it's like a skillet.
Okay.
It's the craziest thing. It's like crisp. She'd mix half and half, like store-bought cornmeal, and get real cornmeal that's been ground, so it's like a little bit grittier. And she would mix that and cook it on top of the stove, man, and it's like some of the best stuff. I have to get her to make some breaks.
How'd she do her fried potatoes, if you don't mind me asking?
Bacon grease. You got to have bacon grease. It's kind of like the magic there.
Oh, that's all right.
And, red potatoes cut up. And a lot of times she put bacon in there, too, to cook with them. In a big iron skillet, man, and sit there and just cook them. Let them get crispy. You get them crispy. You got to let them. You can't move them too much. You got to have that crisp, and you fry it off.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I do love crispy fried potatoes. Here's what my dad would do. He would fry potatoes, onions, and squash.
That's good.
All in the same, like in a Dutch oven. He would season it up real nice, and I really enjoy that too. I'll put in like chop up a bunch of garlic, fresh garlic, throw it in there, or just like bigger chunks, man. And I like that. I like that version myself.
I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, down home cooking.
Oh yeah, that's one thing you can't go. That's what I really think, man. Me and Jessica, we try to slow down. I was like, man, people don't eat together like that anymore, cook meals together. And we're even part of like a ministry. One of the things they do is about having Sabbath. And on Friday night, they stop and like Shabbat Shalom. And it's like to get around the table together. We're going to like Jewish hall, like sit there.
Yeah, sundown on Friday night, man.
And sit there and eat together, drink some wine and talk. And it's one of the coolest things. We take some friends, usually do like 3 couples. And one couple will tell their story at each meal. And,
that's cool, man.
And it's just like slow down. There's no time to get done. Everybody puts their phones away. It's no media. And it's really about taking Sabbath in your life, about, resetting.
I know a lot of, there's several people I know that are Saturday observer, Friday night through, because it's sundown Friday through sundown Saturday. I guess is their observation.
Yeah, there's a lot of Seventh-day Adventists and a lot of Messianic Jews. And that's it's just like the way they build this ministry. They do stuff like that. Now, they were in Africa for like 10 years and came back, and everything was so fast-paced. Mm-hmm. They said, hey, you guys are missing out on each other and missing out on friends and missing out, just eating good food and talking and, not being, we got to be here or do this or, just the conversation part, which that's my favorite things to do is just hang out with people and eat a good meal.
Yeah, too. It's something I've been trying to do more is just like take solo walks. I get a 15-minute day. Like they encourage us to go do like nothing for 15 minutes at work. I'm only there 6 hours, but I'll go walk across campus. They've got a couple of nice park trail areas, and I'll just think about nothing.
Yeah,
and just relax and just or sit outside and just enjoy nature, man.
Are you familiar with the Enneagram? It's a personality test. It's kind of
I don't know.
It's kind of gotten popular the last couple of years, but it has like a 1 through 9. It's like the numbers, and each number has like 3 subtypes, so it's really 27. And it's kind of a rabbit hole. I think you'd probably like it. It's one of those things you start. I've read like 10 books in the last year and a half on it.
Interesting.
And it goes even more. I even got one like Sex and the Enneagram the other day. It was like the best one. But it's so true. Like, it's so funny that you read it and you're like, oh my God, that's my wife. That's me, But what it does, it has like a healthy, an unhealthy, and an average. And then there's, people wrote how each one is like how you're supposed to either rest in stillness or solitude or, what helps you draw back to your center. And all of them, man, I think a lot of times me for a long time was like, make mine's rest in stillness and just to be still. It was so hard, and to be solitude because I had to be around people. But like that part 2, meditation or just walking it's such a huge deal just to reset because we're always just bombarded by.
Oh yeah, I mean, so I was just thinking about this the other day as I walked out of my office on campus, and there were 6 students in the hall. It was like a time where I was just in my office hours, so I was just chilling or whatever. I was going down the hall for some reason, going to get coffee or something. There were 6 students in the hall, and they were all like waiting for the next class to end so they could go in, or it was about to happen or whatever. It's like 45, and this class is over at 50. But everybody's just, and I'm not like talking down on being on your phone or whatever. I think it's just maybe healthy to do like what you're talking about, an appropriate time where you're not. But they were just all like that. So there was no like standing there reflecting on your day, like that's
no being bored anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Or maybe no being mindful anymore. Yeah. That's one thing that that guy mentioned, Roland, this martial arts guy. That's like, I joke around, call him Don Rolando to people because he's awesome. He's like the godfather of the gym right now. But
that's awesome.
He is always talking. He's like, yeah, hey, you know, it's cool. Wing Chun kata. Yeah, it's cool. You know, you do it sitting down and without the dummy, and then you do it without moving in your mind, holding your arms like. And he's like, I do this 30 minutes every morning. He's like, it'll help you with mindfulness. And he's always talking about mindfulness.
I'm a huge advocate of, man, even lifting or whatever, like, you believe you can do it. I mean, sit there, go through the motions.
There's something interesting about going through the motions
in my mind, you know.
Yes.
And I have a contract on my mirror about how, from my family to when I'm going to perform physically, financially, and I read it. And it's kind of a reminder, like, hey, this is what, are you setting your day to do this? And subconsciously, what's crazy is, like law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, you start going towards those things like, hey, I've got to be intentional towards my wife, towards my kids. You know, I'm intentional towards what I believe about Christ. You know, those things about being a good person and seeing the best in people. But also as a part, like, you know, hold hard boundaries when I need to hold hard boundaries with people.
Yeah, I've gotten more so about boundaries because I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to spend the time I have the way I want, and that might involve doing less of something so I could do more of this across the board because I enjoy podcasting. So, but it's like making time for it is a thing because I do a lot of other stuff.
That's where, you know, like those things like that mindfulness is like, I'm mindful. These are the things I want to do, the person I want to be, you know, congruency, and like I said, saying yes to saying no to something else, and those things, like all those things going back to that. Hey, what am I thinking? What am I filling my mind with too? And I was like, even people, man, you know, some are just time sucks. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, they dragging me down. And I'm like, you know, those boundaries for those people, but also as a business, you have to be honest and sit there and spend time with people you don't like sometimes. And also students, you're like, oh, this person is wearing me out, but I have to be here 3 times a week with them.
Well, and we were kind of talking about that before we turned on the podcast, is being in the people business. And sometimes that can take it out of you. Sometimes it's the most rewarding thing ever. More times than not, it's rewarding, but it is a selfless kind of it's like an intrinsic sort of reward. It's a weird payoff.
And that's where, you know, the extroverts, the introverts come. Like, I'm extroverted, so I become alive with people. But there's some that, you know, I don't come alive with. I like I'm avoid, you know, like a stiff arming, like, oh gosh, you know, this person again. But, you know, even with that is like learning, you know, those things. Even if you're introverted, you know, you draw energy from being alone or sit there and getting rest. My wife, like, we'll do like a Plexus stuff is, man, there'll be 12,000 people like in Vegas, MGM, you know, it's crazy. Plus everybody else there. And she always joked, I was like, she's Plex famous, you know, so, and she's 6 foot tall, so everybody sees her and wants to talk to her, ask her, how do you do this? How, you know, and man, by full day at 8 o'clock, she's done.
Yeah.
So I take her to the room, make sure she's got dinner, water, kiss her goodnight, give her some loving, whatever. And I go back out with my buddies and hang out till like 3 a.m, come back, get up at 6 and go, you know. But I'm like extrovert, and I come alive being around people, having fun, you know, sitting there and seeing people I hadn't seen all year long, and have 4 or 5 buddies. And Jessica needs, like, she's introverted and needs that rest. And
it's weird that like extroverting a lot makes me introvert in my free time. Yeah. Like that leads me to say more to things. Because sometimes not. It just really takes it out of you. Like, I don't know if it's an age thing, or it's like as I get older, if it's a patience thing.
I think too, like there's a part like going back to Enneagram real quick. I'm a 7, and they're like enthusiast, optimist, want to have like life of the party. You know, like looking, we're gonna make this fun wherever we're at. But when they're really in health, they integrate into a 5, and 5s are like, I conserve my energy. I'm gonna be reading. I'm gonna be analytical. And when I started being healthier, Jessica's like, what is wrong with you? You know, she's like, you're not talking, you're reading. You know, I read a lot anyway, but, you know, she's like, you're more introspective and more just like, are you okay? You know, she kept coming back. I was like, I'm just being healthier now. It's like I still enjoy being around people, but I'm at, you know, it's a different place. And seeing that too, and how too, I think, you know, age too, I think some maturity comes with that, and seeing the things you really enjoy. And am I doing this because it's fun for me, and you know, am I doing it for other people?
Exactly. Kind of a life of purpose and passion, man. Like that's what, and I tell people this all the time, just because you have a like life full of your passions doesn't mean they don't come with these other things that we're talking about. A lot of the times and that's just life, man. It's like, it would be that if you were doing, it's like you could be doing something not your passion and feeling the same way, but worse.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what, you know, there's times like some days, man, I'll be wore out, like you said, completely. And I'm like, man, I just want to move to a cabin or around you know, like in the middle of nowhere. It's like, you know, 800 square, like we have a small cabin. I was like, I'm gonna move up there. It's a loft. I was like, be away from everybody and not have to do anything. You know, have to know the responsibility.
Leave the rat race behind. And more and more people are doing that.
Oh yeah. And that's what the part of me too, though, that goes back to, there's a responsibility that, like, I really feel like my beliefs are God. We're creating God's image, but they're made to be creators. We're made to do stuff, not just, you know, I think made to be, first of all, but also made to create, you know, stuff within us that only we can do and nobody else can do. That's what got me into doing all this, is just like, I really love creating stuff, content, whatever you want to call it, podcast. Yeah, it is.
Recording, music, it doesn't matter. I would make videos for the gym. I just love it, man.
Dude, your kid's going to listen to this 30 years later and say, that's my dad.
Yeah,
that's what's cool. That's when, you know,
it's going to be there forever.
They're going to say, my dad was a dork. You know?
Yeah. It's funny because all the things like that I'll talk about that'll be like embarrassing. Like the other day, a friend on my Facebook, he has a daughter that is like, I don't know, she's probably 12 years old, but he's like, man, I don't know how this happened. I got this real long hair growing out my ear. And they like showed it to his daughter and her friends, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Like, it's so embarrassing.
Oh yeah,
but it's like, yeah, dude, I do have some weird hair growing in weird places. And I just noticed it. I was like, "Is this second puberty? What's going on?"
Just
here?
wait, dude. I turned 40 in September, and
you just turned 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
wow.
I feel like I'm about 85 body wise, and just all the little things. I always thought it was joking, but I was like, man, I can tell they're definitely more miles.
Man, so how do you sleep?
You know, I used to not sleep at all. I mean, I really was like, I think I always had something on my mind. And in I'd say probably the last 2 years, I probably get 5 or 6 hours of sleep.
I've been getting more sleep. I just like, I go to sleep early now, like about 10 o'clock, maybe 11 at the latest. But then I get up at 5:30. Or 4:45. I really think you get more done when you get up early. It's just one of those things. I hate saying it, but it's just the truth. It's like you even if you get up just a little bit where you're not rushed and I can get up and do this. But I used to go to bed around a lot of times around midnight 1, and I'll get up around 6, and sometimes early. It just depends. With the time change, I'm still kind of jacked up with it. But I'm one of those people. I'll be reading. And Jessica wants me to go to bed with her. It's one of those things that we don't have a TV in our bedroom, which is good. I'm not allowed to have that.
Huh.
We just had a conversation about it today.
We have.
Corey does not like TVs.
It's not in our. It's one of those things being good though, or I constantly have to think if I want to watch something, I'll go in there and watch it. I'm not just mindlessly flipping through.
Yeah, I know. I would have loved to watch Gettysburg last night, bro. That's what I've been on a Civil War kick.
Gettysburg, the one with
1993.
Denzel Washington and.
Okay, no, what was okay? Denzel Washington was in Glory, right?
Glory, that's right. I'm sorry.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good. I was just talking. Gettysburg has Martin Sheen as Robert E. Lee.
Yeah. I love movies. I know what you're talking.
This would have came out when it came out in '93.
Yeah, because I had an illegal satellite. That's one thing too from my parents from '84 to '89. So I've seen like '80s movies. I've seen them all. And I still watch if there's an 80s, 90s movie, I've probably seen it 5 times.
Yeah, I was watching another one. This is like, these I made for TV movies, man. I don't know if Gettysburg was, but there's one about this prison camp, Andersonville, that I recently watched. It's wild, man. Civil War is freaking wild.
Oh, announced today. I've been reading Sebastian Junger's book. He talks about one about a tribe. Talks about war.
Yes.
You ever read it?
No, I have not read it. Actually.
It was on my list for read forever, and somebody brought it the other day, and I ordered it finally. And
do you listen to more audiobooks than you actually read, or
like last year I read 41 books, and 3 of those were like audio. Like 2 was digital, but I like having a real book. If you ever want a book or need a book or want to borrow, probably call me. I probably have it.
Okay.
Under my bed or on a shelf somewhere.
I've got a decent collection, especially history books. I have about 2 complete large bookcases, but I've started doing more audiobooks. I'm more of an auditory learner, and I just realized my retention rates were way higher than when I read.
So I'm a huge highlighter, and I go back. Like I have books. I really got upset. Jessica put some bookshelves in our bedroom I wanted, but I had some like where our TV used to sit at in there, and I had some under the bed. But I had like, these are the books I've read, but I'm still going back to. It was like a section. Here's the books I want to read. It's in my closet, for this year. And here, I had like all organized in my chaos, and they redecorated our bedroom and took I was like, they're all mixed together. I was I like lost it. I was like a little kid. I was like OCD in a jacked up chaos way. I was like, these are the ones, because I would go back, like I want to reread or go back to something.
Well, yeah, like anytime somebody would ask Thomas Jefferson about something, he would be like, let me read it all. I'll tell you all about it. It's right here on page 327 of this book on shelf number 4. Like he would have it down to where he just knew everything. Everything for Thomas Jefferson was like a systematized list of like the most logical.
Yeah. Mine's kind of like that, but not quite that good. I remember lots of books. Stuff pulled out of them, because I highlight stuff a lot and try not to highlight too much. But the stuff that's very important, I'll go back to, and quotes and stuff. And I'll share stuff with Ryan.
I do with the books I read. Just like there's so many books I work with around the topics that I teach, which whether that be the Civil War or the Assyrians or whatever it is, where I will constantly go back to that stuff. And it's nice having it highlighted or underlined, or I take notes on certain books and I will save those and kind of categorize them and systematize them in that way. So it's nice. I've been teaching long enough. I have a lot of content, and it's like a sort of an intellectual property. I'm like, I got 28 pages of notes on the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen.
So you teach, what do you teach right now?
US 1, and then Western Civ 1. That's the course that I teach primarily. I also teach Civ 2. US 2 I haven't taught, but I will teach eventually.
Is it 1865 and after, or is it?
I think that would, yes, but it's really post-Reconstruction, so it's more 1877 to present, US 2 is. And that's where really most of my content area is concentrated. I've had Vietnam War, Civil War, 45 to present, 14 to 45. Had all of these classes in that area, but that'll probably be the last class I teach in my rotation. But US 1, really, I didn't enjoy teaching that till recently. And now, like, we're wrapping up on we're about to start Reconstruction, and I really like.
Have you been to DC?
I just went to DC for the first time last year. We walked around and saw the White House and stuff. I didn't get to do as much. We were sitting there watching Widespread Panic for 3 days. So, but I want to go back one of these days, not anytime soon. But
I think history-wise, there's so much there you don't get. Like, we were there, we went to Israel in February, and we were flying through DC, so we were there for like a day or two just because of the way our trip was set up. And I'd never been to Ford Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Which is completely, people don't go to, either. And I was like, it was one of those things times I've been there before, but you can go and see where he shot,
Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Yeah, but then you see they have, like, there's a room that has all the conspiracies on it.
Oh, wow.
And which I love that part of it, it was just completely different, who was in, these people were involved, what were they trying to do.
Have you seen that movie they did in 2010 with James McAvoy, The Conspirators?
Yeah.
That's a good one that I saw it in theaters when it came out, but I'd kind of forgotten about it. And it's just we were talking about all these different movies that commemorate the Civil War, and I mean that's a big. There's been so many that have been made, and I mean just in the last 20 years particularly. But
yeah, that's a good one. I need to go watch that again.
Yeah,
I get in those moods like that. I'll go watch stuff.
That's where I'm at right now. So I just finished Gettysburg this earlier today, and I started watching Andersonville, and I'll probably finish it later. But it gets you interested too, you know. Like it's good for me to like be reading a book about Arkansas Civil War, and then I'm teaching about the Civil War because I got a book by Tom DeBlack that's it's the Civil War in Arkansas. It's really good. It's called With Fire and Sword. And he was one of the professors of Arkansas history forever at Tech. Authored the textbook, and he has a great book on it. But then I'm watching these movies and lecturing on it and reading the chat. So it's just like I get engulfed with all of these different accounts, and then I'm just Googling stats. That's been a big thing, just stats from battlefields. And it's
crazy, isn't it? We don't think about how many people really lost their lives until you see.
Gettysburg's 52,000 people in less than 3 full days of engagement.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about Remember the Titans, when he has them run through there. You know, like I was like, how cool. The guy who wrote that was so smart to make that, you know, where they could do that. I was just...
That's how I just saw that. I need to add that to my watch list on Disney Plus, man. Do you have Disney Plus yet?
It took me 3 days to download it. I found it finally on my TV. My Samsung TV I bought in 2016 was actually a 2015 model, which is not compatible with Disney Plus. Which
bummer, dude.
But then I couldn't get my iPad to order AirServe, the QR code. It wouldn't like pick it up off the TV to sit there to search. But then Jessica, I thought she'd had a Fire Stick she bought for like a Plexus giveaway, and I was like, "There's a Fire Stick in the house." I've told the kids they can watch Disney Play, and I found it last night because I had them on the iPad watching it, and I found it last night, and we watched the Shaggy DA, one of the old
Oh
movies.
yeah, man! I added a bunch of old Yeller, Swiss Family Robinson. I had a whole bunch of older Disney films. I'm hoping that they come out with more. One I was looking for is what is it called? It's got the kid from. It's about the drummer boy in the Civil War.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
It's something Shiloh, maybe.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. There's a couple in there. What on there? There's one that's a ghost movie. It's a Disney movie. It's like set in this house and this like secret passageways. It's one thing we had the Disney Channel, so I've seen all these movies, and I've watched.
It's so nostalgic, man. We watched Tall Tale the other night. You remember that with Patrick Swayze, dude? Rocketeers on there. I mean, it's great. We should be watching it right now, just have it on the background. I told
Judson tonight, I was like, hey, when Randy goes to bed, we can watch. He wants to watch Star Wars. I was like, when she goes to bed, we can watch Star Wars.
Dude, Gargoyles, the X-Men cartoon, the original Spider-Man from the 90s. It's all on there. It's fantastic.
I was like, yeah, I'm definitely. I sit there, got kind of excited after I seen all the stuff that was on there because I thought it was just going to be cartoons. And I was like, all the old stuff's on here.
Oh yeah. Well, and two, there's all the stuff that Disney had on other networks that they will no longer have on other networks. And when those contracts end, we're talking dozens and dozens of titles that will go on Disney's server, and they'll pull things in and out of the vault. There's only like less than 400 things to stream on there right now, but it's like, think about the vast amount of content they have.
Well, yeah, that's where, I think too, because they own ESPN and own Fox now and own all these. I think they'll probably even pull, eventually.
Well, the Marvel universe, that's big, but there's several of the movies that aren't on there. I was like, because I've been wanting to do a series of podcasts over the Marvel universe, just kind of break it down, talk about it, and watch it. And now they've got a thing out for the Star Wars universe about like what order to watch it in. And like where Solo is occurring in the timeline, which means that Darth Maul definitely still alive. I'm excited about it. Did you like the new Solo movie? I liked it.
See, I haven't seen it yet. That's one of the things I was waiting. Judson, I've been trying to I wanted him to want to watch them together.
Yeah, my friend Colby's like that. He's not my child, but he's like my best friend. And I'm like, dude, you never seen episode 1? Oh my god,
And I've sat there and tried to let him, because I want. And that's what he quit jits last year, and it made me kind of upset. And he's one of those kids that is so unique. He's a black and white about everything. He's like, Dad, I don't hurt. I was like, you're not hurting people. And but he's playing basketball this year, I think. And I'm trying not to push him. He's real artistic. I let him. My boss, I'll buy like pages of art stuff and stuff to let him play and be. And I was like, I want you to be your own stuff, and I don't want you to be just like the stuff I want to do. And hunting, even when we go like hunting now, I bought him like a fanny pack that has a notebook in it that he can, if he wants to. I was like, if you want to do, I don't want you doing things you don't want to do, but and watching stuff. But because I grew up, man, watching Rambo: First Blood. I mean, that movie, Lone Wolf McQuade, Chuck Norris. My dad let me watch all this.
I got a question for you. Ever seen Firewalker? That's one.
Oh yeah,
dude.
It's
every time
Louis Gossett Jr.
Oh yeah, dude. Every time I smother somebody in jiu-jitsu, I put my hand over their mouth to make them tap. I'm like, you ever seen Firewalker? And then that bad guy, a moment frozen in time. Man, that's one of the earliest Chuck Norris movies I remember seeing. That and Missing in Action 1, 2, and 3. Man, 2 and 3. Two's the best for sure. 3 was the first one I saw, so I got a soft spot for it.
I remember I watched this in Clarksville in 1989. I think it was 1989.
Oh wow, yeah, I'm from Clarksville. So.
It was my uncle's house. My parents got divorced and we're staying there, and my dad tried to get Rambo 3, and it was rented out, of course.
Oh yeah, the tag wasn't on the nail at the movie theaters. Well, you probably like it, depending on where you went.
Oh yeah. Well, my dad, he would let me watch. He loved Chuck Norris. He still loves Chuck Norris. Like Lone Wolf McQuade, he buries him in the ground. Comes out because David Carradine's in that one. It's a classic. I
saved a David Carradine meme for the Facebook today. Yeah.
But
I could have met Chuck Norris this year, dude.
Really?
I ended up. They were really wanting me to teach all summer, which I did. And I didn't go to the trade show in Vegas. I've been like 6 times. But it would have been nice to go again. I'm going to go again probably this summer is the plan. But Chuck Norris was there.
He's old.
Man.
Talk about longevity.
Oh, yeah. Well, I forget. He's in his 70s, 75 maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, something like that.
I remember when we're like the time period we're talking about when I'm seeing these movies, like somebody being like Chuck Norris at 55. And I was like, holy crap. No, that is like too, like, how is he that old? Like I remember being like 8, just like so mind blown. That dude, I'll tell you another good was Delta Force.
Dude, yeah, I like Delta Force 2 too.
Yeah,
South America.
Yeah.
But I think in the first one, Beirut's pretty cool seeing, especially seeing operators that go and do stuff like that. Because now that they're crazy, sit there, they're unassuming, have beards, and they do crazy stuff that you think, man, how's that possible?
See, now I want to do podcast over Chuck Norris movies.
Yeah, we
just talk about them. Yeah, that's the cool thing about a podcast is like we've done that before, like reviewed like just different TV shows that Brandon Motley and we were just talking about Sons of Anarchy for like 2 hours one time.
Sons of Anarchy, Jackson, my favorite.
Dude, that's a good show, man.
I cried. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was like, when he told his son, he's like, don't let him be like me. I was like, that was one of the craziest things, then goes and it's the end of it. It's like,
man, I was the end, I was just wiped out. And then there was all this speculation that there's going to be like some spinoff series with Brad Pitt playing Jackson or something. I was just like, dude, bring it. And then there's been nothing, but I didn't get into Sons of Anarchy till it had been out for a long time. I can't remember if I watched the finale while it was still on or if it was after it all ended.
I had a little break in mind because my wife, like Jessica's pure white snow. I mean, like, she almost didn't go on second date because our second day I took her to watch Step Brothers in her house. And
we just watched that the other night.
It's like one of my favorite movies ever. And like the first 2 years of our marriage, she's like, that's inappropriate. I mean, she's kind of just gotten used to it now. But I was like, I didn't watch it, and I kind of like waited for a while, and I started watching it again, the streaming, because I like the story. I'm a huge, I love rough people, man. Because military, oil field, because I see the best in them. But I was like, these people are good people, but they have some. And my dad's an outlaw too. I mean, that's
groups, man. That's diversity. Mm-hmm. Where it's all these different marginalized groups in society. I'm fascinated by like countercultures and.
Oh yeah, well too. People that are comfortable with themselves. That's one thing I love about you, man. Because you march your own beat, and so many people don't. They try to be like other people. And people like that I'm attracted to. I wonder why they are the way they are, and they're completely comfortable about who they are, and they don't care how long their hair is or what they drive or what they wear or what they I'm talking about. They're just themselves. Even my brother pastors a church in town, and dude, he has long hair. I mean, like, it used to be a mullet, but it's like long hair now, and he'll wear like these TD Jakes black suits, like in cowboy boots, and it's like the most, like, I'm like, what are you doing?
Just being himself.
He doesn't care, man. You'll see him on the bike trail. He'll have like his hair like flapping, and the wind looks long, and he'll have like sit there like jeans on the bike, just chilling. He's 50 years old. Just that's just who he is. And it's funny to me. I was like, you're just comfortable who you are. And I think I think too with age, the more you get like that, you don't care what people think.
Well, and I try and pat like I have 160 students is what I start off with each semester, plus all the people at the gym. I love, like, I'll get somebody with long hair and I'll be like, you're never going to make it anywhere in life with hair like that. And then they look at me and they're like, but you made it somewhere. And I was just like, yeah, well, exactly. I love being kind of sarcastic with people like that. But, I hate the stereotypes like that. Like, oh, you can't be successful if you're blah, blah, blah. Or if you have a blah, blah, blah. Or if you, like blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just the way. And two, I think small-mindedness too, man. Growing up, I mean, I love Polk County for some things and some things I don't because of that, like, because most people, when somebody's different, I want to know, man. I want to know more about, because, and two, when they have people move here, I'm like, why'd you move here? Because I want to know. I know,
yeah. I've always been fascinated. Ever since I was a kid, I'm like, you moved here from California? Like, why did you do that? Like, why would you do that? And that night, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, yes.
Oh, exactly. I mean, because I moved back here about 4.5 years ago.
Okay, so like where did you move from?
We lived in Searcy. Me and Jessica got married. I was living in Conway. She lived in Searcy, was working at Harding, and we lived there, I guess about 4 or 5 years, and moved to Ohio for a year for work, then moved back. Then with Plexus like blew up, and we could live wherever we wanted to. And part of me is like, I wanted my kids to know my mom because she's the reason I turned out decent. I mean, she raised me and like prayed for me every day.
She wouldn't let you watch Rambo First Blood.
She like prayed. She's in there praying like Jesus. But I don't know how my mom and dad got together. It's kind of like that. She's just a really sweet lady and just sacrificed a ton for me. And I wanted my kids to know her. And she's 73 now. So. And I told her, I was like, you pass away, I'll probably move somewhere. And she's like, what? And I was like, I'll probably, just we'll take the kids and go somewhere and travel or, do something. And I was like, I'll probably always come back here. I was like, it's a good place to raise kids. I was like, but I like being home now, man. I've like created our own little paradise. And I like to travel, but I like coming home and, my own little place.
Yeah. I'm in a weird little phase where like Cora and I have done so much the whole time we've been together, because I was just starting to build the gym when we got together, and then she hopped on board when we first opened, like 6 months after being in our first location, 2012. She was teaching kids and has become super involved. But like we've gone to Vegas half a dozen times. I've competed in Worlds 3 times, Pans twice, American, all over the country competing or going to a trade show. I'm just kind of in a weird spot where it's like we're about to go to the gym. I'm just doing things I want to do right now and moving the gym, and that's it. Like I really have no desires. I've done so much leisurely activity. Even like the last year and a half, we've done a lot of like leisure. Gone to see Widespread Panic 25 times, if you can see this.
That's cultish, but it's okay.
It is. It's funny. Like there was some video my friend Colby sent me earlier, and it was like this guy. It was classic he and I, and it was like, bro, have you heard Panic cover this? Have you heard Panic cover that? And he's just like, the other guy's like, man, Panic, I'm just so sick. I'm sick of Panic, dude. That's a terrible song. Like, why don't they have a hit like the Foo Fighters? Like just saying stuff like that, and I'm like, that's a terrible song, man. But really, I love all their stuff.
Also, you said though, I think one of your podcasts I listened to is like you said that one guy's 132 times he'd seen them or something like.
Oh man, people like somebody. I don't know if they were telling the truth. Somebody said they've seen him 1,300 times the other day in Panic Stream. And like then somebody put a meme up as like John Bell, the singer, and he's like, "Oh, you've seen me play live 360 times. That's cute. I've been to all the shows." Like, and I mean, to think about how many times they played, it's like, wow.
But you see groups like that, man. Even the other day I was talking about, Rolling Stones, AC/DC. They've been touring
Willie Nelson.
Yeah, I seen Willie Nelson, I guess 5 or 6 years ago. And the dude, man, I was sitting there thinking, this guy is so freaking old. And he's on, CMA's last, I guess 2 nights ago, whatever. There's a picture of him and Loretta Lynn, which I love. Outlaw Country is like one of my favorite things. But I was like, man, it's kind of sad because the same way I see my dad's like 73, like he's like a weaker, mild, like that, like there's like this kind of air like ending.
I know, it's interesting. We just went. Have you ever been to the Ryman in Nashville?
So, I haven't. That's one of the places I want to go.
We just saw Panic there play acoustic. It was insane. But just the number of people like Willie Nelson and legends that have been in there, it was just like, oh. So, but have you listened to any Lucas Nelson?
Yeah,
I like his stuff.
I did. He's different. That's where, man, even like Johnny, Shooter Jennings, Shooter. Like I love Shooter.
Yeah,
stuff.
I've never got super into him, but man, I've been getting super more so into Sturgill Simpson.
I like Sturgill. His new stuff's good.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody about doing a podcast on each one of his albums, just listening to each one of his albums on the podcast, just chatting about it. But Shooter Jennings, somebody else my
favorite thing I listen to by myself, and sometimes I'll go outside and turn all the pool lights off and might build a fire outside. Is his name's Ryan Bingham. I
don't know if I've heard of him.
Man, there's a movie called Crazy Heart, came out probably 6-7 years ago. It had Jeff Bridges played that kind of washed up country singer that Bad Blake was his name, and had Maggie Gyllenhaal, and she was a reporter trying to report on him, and he just kind of fell in love with her.
Jeff Bridges.
But it's a good movie. It's kind of, especially if you like that Jeff, sit there. But Ryan Bingham wrote the song and played. He won a Grammy, but he's got this like he's a little dude, but he sounds like he's like 60 and smoked like 2 packs a day, and got that just pain, in his voice, and he has some fun songs. He played on the Civil War movies too. What is that one that came out about 2 years ago? It's really rough. It's got Christian Bale in it. It's Indians where they.
Oh man, I know which one you're talking about. It was like a Netflix original or something.
Yeah,
I know. Yes,
he's in that movie. But he plays a small place. He won that Grammy, but he never went mainstream. He still cusses a lot and still just himself, which I like that because it's like you're not trying to be something you're not. But he'll play different guitars. You have different sounds in his stuff. And
do you play music?
No, I wish I could. It's one of those things that I can play the radio. And I really like Jessica. She's like, I want you to get a guitar. Actually, I have a voucher to go pick a guitar out. And I joke, I was like, I want a good guitar.
You know what you should do? Which, first off, my main man who would probably listen to this, Brian Chenoweth, the Valley Piano, is the dude who I tell everybody to go see. He does all my work. He's the man. He's my friend. He's been on the podcast. I support his business. Olson's is going out of business though, and I know you're probably not trying to save bucks on a guitar, but somebody texted me yesterday. I was like, dude, Olson's straight acoustics are like dirt cheap right now. And that's like probably the thing you could get the best deal on with them going out of business.
Oh yeah. That's what, it's one of my things, 2020 I wrote down just cause stress really, I took lessons several years ago and I know some, I love music though, cause the moods, sit there, if you looked at my playlist, it is the funniest, I did like my 40th birthday playlist, and we had like live music at my birthday, which was fun. Dude played everything. Then I had a list I played, and it had Notorious B.I.G. on it. And then it had Lucas Nelson. Then it had something like Willie Nelson. Then it went from all these things, and they just because.
What do you think about Rage Against the Machine coming back? Are you a fan?
I'm a fan, but it's like it's a man, I was thinking the other day, I was talking to a guy that went and heard Zach Brown Band in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, I know some people that were
and they covered one of their songs. And
wow.
And I was like, because Zach Brown's another, as far as you like musicians, like they played Metallica when I saw them live. They play The Devil Went Down to Georgia better than Charlie Manson.
I love when bands do covers.
I do too. That's like their song, their covers, like some of the best songs. But I was like, to me, that's just like honoring somebody else. Like, hey, this is.
It is. And that's, I think it's like the pinnacle of art outside of creating your own original song or whatever is like, hey, I heard this song that's everybody's heard, but this was my interpretation of it. And it's different and it's unique and it's not ever the same as the original artist.
I'll tell you, Johnny Cash is my all-time favorite. Like Johnny Cash, he's I just feel like I relate to him. I've screwed up about it. I feel like as much as him, like made more mistakes. I feel like me and Johnny Cash would be friends for life. But when he did Hurt.
Oh man.
And he's sitting there. He's like, well, "What's his face up?" I can't even think. the guy that wrote it originally.
Trent Reznor, by Nine Inch Nails, who has a famous country song right now.
He's like, I could never do it again after that because Johnny Cash did it. You know, and I was like, how cool is that to say?
Imagine Johnny Cash doing your art.
Yeah, that's what's so cool. I think too. I was like, what a compliment, man. Somebody, and too at the age where he was at, and you know, the end of life where he was, you know, and that's what
that video is a tearjerker.
Dude, I mean, it's one of those. I go, you know, I always think about that as amazing, and I've kind of been experiencing some of those little things, seeing that my dad's 73. He had a really bad wreck about 2 months ago. Should have died. Hit a tree, had a carotid artery blocked and hit a tree in this field going like 60.
Was it like a widowmaker? Did he have a heart attack or just kind of lost consciousness? He
lost consciousness and fell over in the seat and hit, T-boned a tree. But he's lost weight, you know, he's meeker mild, and he's like John Wayne looking, squinted out, you know, won't wear glasses, you know, Wranglers, and, you know, was always about 250 and just louder than life and outlaw, you know, loving women lover, you know, everything, you know, possibly do wrong, just but seeing him like more meek and mild. We're at deer camp at our family one up in Newton County this last weekend, and him and his two cousins are in the 80s and his brother's like 75. We're sitting around a fire and they're telling stories, and some were, you know, I mean, stuff they'd done. Probably don't need to repeat on the air.
How'd you guys make it this far?
Yeah, exactly. But it was really, like, you know, but it was like they're reminiscing. Do you know John Vanderpool? Famous hippie.
I don't know.
He's not really a hippie. He's a legend, but he's our cousin. He was there too. He's got along. He played for Charlie Rich Band. He played for the Charlie Rich Band. Okay. He lives up in Newton County, and music wise, he's just still his talent. But him and my dad are like, I guess they're first cousins, and they're talking about. He's like, they're like loving on each other. Thanks for coming, getting me out of jail. You know, thanks for, you know, these things.
Remember
that, you know,
that time?
You know, but it was like multiple. It wasn't, you know, it was like, you know, you came and got me out of here, and, you know, took care. And it was like seeing them really. And it was kind of a neat thing, you know, at the end of our lives. That, hey, you know, can't believe we made it this far. And they were telling stories about that because my little boy went to bed and a couple other ones went to bed, but they're just being real with each other, and, you know, all the posing, all, you know, and talking about from girlfriends to, you know, sitting there to family members. And hey, man, we lived in a little 800 square foot shack, you know, like 10 of us together, you know, cousins, but we always took care of each other. And it was kind of neat to see that, you know, and it reminded me that John, you know, that time, you know, end of life, like, you know, how have I lived my life? And even to me now, like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave? You know, because my kids, what am I modeling for them? And, you know, what am I doing? And
yeah, Cora and I are in planning phases up for starting our family. And it's interesting, man. It's because I can only know when it happens. Like every dad tells me, it's like, dude, it's when it happens, this thing happens where you're not the same anymore.
It's the best thing and the hardest thing. Like, there's like this weightiness of like, and I know you'll love your kids, you know, like there's how much I would kill for them, you know, and, you know, sit there, and there's the same time as like, you want to make sure you're modeling being good, you know that, hey, I'm screwing up. And it's a funny story, like, you know, he's black and white about stuff. And then I smoke a cigar every once in a while, you know, I'm not like a huge smoker, you know, but I was the first time I ever smoked a cigar with my dad, which was kind of a cool thing, by the fire, and Judson saw it, man. And he had like an anti-smoking campaign at school the week before. So he's like, it's bad. You know, he's like, Dad, what are you doing? So I had to go comfort him. And I was sitting there thinking about, you know, why I talked. I was like, but it's not bad. You know, I explained to him, I was like, this is a cigar, not a cigarette. You know, I was like, still not the best for you, but Dad doesn't do this every day. But how their little minds comprehend stuff, man. You know, I could sit there and push. I was like, what are you know, getting mad at him? And how
yeah, see, that's the little stuff like Jeff Woods. He was on the podcast. You know Woods? I'm sure you've trained with him in noon class and stuff, but he was just like, I talked to him about this subject a lot, and other dads that I know in my life too. But he's just like, just accept that you're going to screw it up and just charge forward anyway. Like, don't let that be a deterrent. Like once you accept that, then you can start making it what it should be.
Oh yeah, and I think that's the part too. Is man, you know, like being along with the kids for 3 or 4 days. I mean, I end up yelling at them, whatever, and I have to apologize. I was like, hey, I'm not acting the right way always, and I'm sorry, you know. But man, I think when you learn how to do that and take ownership, I think that's in marriage or anything.
That's big,
ownership is like it's changed my life, because used to have like, whatever, it's your fault, you know. I don't want to take ownership. But even with your kids, there's the things that, you know, and man, Judson, I walk with him every day he rides the bus a mile to Center Valley, which is funny. But he wants to ride the bus.
Yeah.
And we'll go out there,
I remember that.
And I'll go out there and sit by him, and we'll stand out there. And usually, even when it's cold, walk in there, I pray for him. Like, hey, have a great day. And, tell him I love him. Like, give me a bear hug. And tell him I'm proud of him. It's like, and just like speak life into him, pretty much you can do anything you want to and just, be good today. And man, but there's those days, dude, like, and my little girl too, she, loving on her, and man, there's nothing like it. And that's what you guys are gonna do great, because you guys have done things the right way. You set your business up and it's going good, and you're gonna be able to enjoy your kids and not be like, I'm trying to work and trying to do this and not be a part of their lives.
That's the big strategy, was to like build a good life for ourselves that we could have. It's like, hey, they're coming into something we prepared for them to come into, instead of, like, I felt with my parents, like I was talking to this with Cora the other day, and like not talking bad about people that do this at all, but like they had my sister when they were like 19 years old and they just got married and didn't have careers, or like weren't well established, and it was just like, I just looked at that and wanted to take the total opposite route. It's like, I'm going to get out of high school, I'm going to get my education, I'm going to start my business, I'm going to get a career, I'm going to start paying back my student loans. Cora and I are going to get married, and somewhere in this mix of me getting out of college, she's going to get out of college, and then we're going to start a family. And we're to that last part.
Yeah.
We did all the other stuff. And I tell people this all the time, like, doing all the other stuff is a weird thing, because it's like all my goals were accomplished, and I realized that actually watching Widespread Panic in Mud Island, and there were some fights that night, and like, I wasn't at the fights. It's like the first time I didn't have to be at the fights. Like, they were covered. We had 2 guys win. It was great. But it was just, it was an interesting reward to sit there and be like, oh man, I accomplished all my goals. But then an empty feeling, because I was like, what?
It's about being a man. You have to have purpose. Though.
What do I do now? I mean, yes, it was empty. It was weird. Because I literally did. I just was so caught up in accomplishing, I didn't plan new ones.
Here's what I mean. I struggle with that too, because, and I heard I was in Colorado a couple months back. There's like a seminar. It's called Becoming Good Soil. You ever heard of John Eldridge? He wrote a book like 20 years ago called Wild at Heart. And he's like, pretty much live life adventure, pursue your beauty, And pretty much he talks about the pussification of Jesus Christ. But God, it's not, he wouldn't mean to be that way. We're supposed to be men and be masculine, but not, over, but be, sit there. You're supposed to have an adventure. It's what we're built for, not to be sit there stuck in a cubicle, not to be, sit there, pursue your woman. You love her. She needs to know that, not, her coming towards you and all these things. But 20 years ago, I wrote this book called Wild at Heart, which I love. It's one I go back to, just trying to learn how to be a dad, because my dad didn't really model that the best way of these things. And
that's it's kind of like owning the business. It's like, that's why I like talking to other dads about this. It's like, I tell people this all the time, and some businesses, industries have this, but it's like, hey, so I just went down to Hastings, which I miss greatly.
Oh my God.
But I just went down to Hastings, and I went over to the book section, and there, where the books for dummies are, I got how to run a martial arts business for dummies. And I was like, oh no, I didn't, because that book does not exist. So it's just like a lot of trial and error, making things up. And
oh yeah, and it's what, even like, I'm not talking about John Eldridge too much, but he has a second book called Fathered by God. But he talks about stages, like the ranger stage. It's really, the boy, that first ritual that our society misses out. Anthropology, we don't have that ritual, like 12 years, 13 years old, become a man.
Yeah, the coming of age.
That's what I'm trying to build those in for Judson. But the ranger, then the next one after that, I think he's like the warrior, then the lover, then there's like the king. You're your kingdom, like right now you're over your kingdom, your business, your wife, your kids. Then the last one's a sage. And what happens is there's not a lot of sages, because the baby boomers of like, they're not, there's no depth. They're like, I want to have a big house, I want to have a big car, I want to have retirement, and I've not read a book in 10 years. I've not done anything, and there's a few of them, and I like pursue those guys, like the ones that are living, that sage life, like, hey, how do you do this? How are you? And the ones I find, man, I like grasp onto them, and I ask them like, the 20 questions about being a dad, about being a husband, about being a business owner. And man, that's where that knowledge and it's so cool. And that thing I went to was called Becoming Good Soil. Is like they brought in like 40 sages from all over the world, and got to talk to him about questions and about,
Sage is such an interesting archetype too. If you've ever studied that,
it is. But, sitting there, because like the thing, I was like, it's not just age to me. I was like, you have to have some wisdom. You have to have some failures to be that. And I got to, some of these guys I still talk to, man. I met, in Colorado like 6 months ago that I want to ask, questions to. I sit there and about, hey, how'd you handle this, or even now this place we've been slightly successful in business stuff, and like you said, there's a part of me that, hey, what's next?
Yeah. So I actually do want to know more about, like, what do you do, man? Like, I know, like, so like, this is the thing, like, whoever it is, like McMillan or whoever, like, we know a lot of the same people that, like, you'll come up and be like, yeah, Rob, man, he's super good. He's super successful, good. Yeah. But it's like, what are you into? Like, what, you got a diverse background.
I sell illegal drugs. No, I'm sorry. I sell supplements. No, man, I've done a little bit of everything, which is weird. You jack all trades. And I actually have a master's in counseling.
Oh, wow.
I gave my license up about 2 years ago. And the last year I counseled, I had an office for a while in Russellville. I only charged one dude. I wouldn't tell people that because he's a douchebag, so I charged him. And one of the reasons I did, there's a couple of reasons, because I really felt like a lot of times they don't want you to sit there and tell your story when you're counseling, but I think that's important. And not all the time. I don't think you tell it for your purpose, but I think for the other person sometimes, like, hey, you need to hear. And also, man, the spectrums, the filters we see our life through. Like, I'm a Christian, not like a Bible thumping Christian. I'm a Christian that drinks, smokes, loves Jesus. But I think that perspective, I can't be honest with you and say, hey, man, I've jacked up more than you'll ever know. Like my closet's like a walk-in closet of skeletons. It's like, it goes deep. But I think if I can't be real about that, in like therapy, they want a separation. They want a desk. They don't want they don't want relationship. And I disagree with that model, because I think sometimes you have to have that, especially opposite sex. It should be, because there's an intimate part. But I was like, man, when you're sitting there really talking about somebody that might be getting divorced, or the kid died, and if I can't be real and just be there with you and in it, I don't think that's good. And what I do a lot of times, I still see some guys hang out with them, and and if it's like trauma, I'll sit there and say, hey,
I was just thinking about the word trauma as soon as you said that.
I'll send people, they do certain things. I was trained on EMDR, which I'm a big believer in that, and I have tons of therapists that I'll send people to, and man, and there's so much there. I think that, and I still want to help people. I think that's my goal in life, is to add value to people and help people, especially men, and to be better dads, better husbands. Because, man, I've screwed up more than anybody. Like
that's valuable to hear, for people to hear. Like, I was joking around with the hair earlier. Like, it's valuable for somebody with long hair to hear from somebody that has long hair that it's going to be okay.
I was like, yeah, you're going to make it, and that's where, man, like, so much, and those things. That's how they got that master's in that. But we, with Plexus, I know it's funny, people get a lot of trash talk to me about Plexus. It's just funny. I was like, dude, I get to live where I want to live. I drive when I want to drive, and I work when I want to work. And I was like, I get to, this company, dude, I'll be honest, when Jessica started, like 5.5 years ago, I had a gas and oil business. It was almost 7 years ago. I had a gas and oil business, had 16 employees, doing pretty well, and opened the CrossFit, had a huge house, and gas and oil, that kind of just went downhill. And our marriage was like shit. I mean, it was, sorry, I'm not cussing, but it was
this is open.
But it was in there. But it was, I'm talking about. But it was like me. I mean, I was like self-sabotage, and everything else is going. I was like, I'm just going to burn it all down and walk away, because that was like MO. I didn't take ownership. I didn't sit there because I had modeled what to do, and had to sell the CrossFit, to pay for other bills and close that down. Had to go back to work after owning your own business, which is I think probably the most humbling thing as a man,
Well, entering into my desired career, which I lucked out landing this history job. Like, I have great benefits, great pay. It's a dream job. It's literally, but like entering into it, it was weird, because like for 5 years after getting my master's degree,
nobody telling you what to do.
Yeah, and like, honestly, it's one of those things, like, I went all that time without like dreaming, like having the reoccurring bad dream, like, oh, I'm late for class or whatever, because it's just like, it's a new thing of high importance.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, that part too was, it was one of the best things for me too, though, because one of the best things for our marriage, because we ended up moving to Ohio for a year, which was horrible. Like, we lived south of Youngstown, which man, Steel Belt. It's like depressing area.
What did you do in Ohio?
I was working for a company called Ecolab. Ecolab is actually Bill Gates owns 20% of it, which is Green Initiative. But they bought 2 gas and oil companies, Nalco and Champion, which is so funny to me. I'm like, but what I did, I cleaned up dirty water to make it clean. Made dirty water clean water, pretty much up there, and gas and oil stuff. But that was there for 2 weeks. And moved south on the board. Number 1 goal, move south. I didn't care, just like south, somewhere south. Because up there just cloudy, overcast. I was vitamin D deficient, and Jessica Judson was like a year old. He's 7 now. I mean, he wasn't a year old. He's a baby, and we were there for a year, man. And I worked every which way to get out of there possible to get back to Arkansas or south, south. And finally, after a year, but it was good for our marriage because we only had each other and didn't have.
Distractions are gone.
Yeah, and that was good. And sit there and just kind of came back home at Cersei and still worked for them for a while, and still had some debt from that business, the gas and oil business, and came back home and I was counseling plus doing gas and oil stuff. Man, I was maxed out on time. There was nothing left, but I was like, hey, I need you to make $500, just $500. Don't go back to work, so I want you to raise the kid, And she brought home Plexus, and this is my exact words. I was like, hell no. Because we got, how it is a gym. I got every supplement company, everybody, like, come do this. I'm like, no.
Well, most people that probably talk smack about Plexus are probably doing Herbalife or something like that. Like, because Core and I, like, we still use some Advocare products.
But like, Advocare is a great product.
We're not like super into the business side of it. Like, we get checks every month, but it's not like. It's not been our focus, but like, I remember when it was like what you were saying, like people like. Attack you for it and stuff.
Like it was like the weirdest thing, but I told her, no, don't do this, because I was like, my preconceived, people try to slam me with Amway and Avic, I always try to get to sell stuff because I always love people. I mean, like, it'd be like, hey, come eat dinner with me, then well, I need to tell you something. I would get so.
I'm involved with this new business.
Yeah, and I'm like, why don't you just tell me up front,
Who was it? There was some company that they would never tell you what they were going to talk to you about. It was a more recent company.
Well, a lot of companies are like that. They train that way now. I mean, they like, don't tell anybody what you do. And I'm like, that's like so weird. But ended up she, and I got mad about it. I was like, hell no, don't do this. Do not do this. Do not think about doing it. Our friends.
Do you think it was a scheme or what?
There was 2 reasons. I just, MLM, I didn't have a good taste with that. And my lady cut my hair, sold it, and she didn't tell the benefits. She just like, hey, you want to buy it? And drove me nuts.
Yeah, that's another thing about these products in general. It doesn't matter really what they are, is you see people using them and you're like, they aren't good ambassadors for the brand.
Oh yeah, exactly. So then, and she's like, when do you think it's real deal? I was like, if you make $500, first month, dude. And Jessica's introverted, just had a baby, living, pretty much I was traveling a lot, so she's trying to do all this stuff. First month, man, $500. She makes more than $500. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's not gonna last. I'm like, and that was June. June, July, August, man. And I remember September, I was gone 24 days. I traveled. I was in 12 different states, flying, driving.
Bro,
I mean, it was rough.
That's brutal.
But also, for those days I was home, I counseled all day long. So really, I was home 28 days, like pretty much. And that was kind of a deal breaker. She's like, I want to go after this and really go after it. That way you don't have to do this anymore. And me and the job paid really well, 6 figures, had a truck, all that stuff. But it was like it was like soul sucking. I'm signing my life to the devil.
Oh, dude, I worked in the car business. Like
same thing. Yeah.
I've been there, like, but have not been there for a long time. But it's.
Well, then she won a trip October to go to their leaders retreat, and I was like, I don't want to go. I'll travel. I was like, I'll stay home with Judson, and me and him will kick it. And you go have fun, And she's like, no, you have to go. And I'm like, no. I fought her on it, and finally I was like, okay. We flew to Orlando. Of course, she's like Penny Pincher, Dave Ramsey Jr. gets like the 4 a.m. flight, it seemed like, and I'm like, are you kidding?
Cora does that.
It drives me nuts, man. She's getting up, cracking down at the airport, and we get there, and we get to the Gaylord. And man, I mean, I never been in the parking lot of a Gaylord, much less, staying in one. And I'm like, who's paying for this? Because we're living on a budget, because at the time we had a really big house we were paying for and another house, we had renters in, but, I was trying to do financially. She's like, they are. And I'm like, are you sure? Because the room's like $300 a night. And we get there, nice room. And man, I go to the first thing and it was like really good. I was like, actually had good speakers, but in my mind, I was thinking Motel 6. I was thinking worn out speakers, has-beens, and a bunch of rah-rah, but they had really good speakers. I'm like, man, this is not too bad, had good food, good party, and Gaylord was nice, had a TV. It was like 40 feet by 40 feet. You could watch sports bar, it was like, and so then we went to this poolside thing, only like the top 100 people, and Jessica had won it. The names, and I'm like, I was like, we don't belong here, kind of, in my mind, I'm like, my name said thanks a guest, so I was her guest, so I got to go to it. And some of these people I'd seen because she'd watch the videos, like they have diamond documentaries. So I knew who they were because she'd watch them in bed at night to build belief. So I knew who, that person was. And it's kind of watching. Then she won she'd made like a $2,000 check and got a big check. And that weekend they had like a costume party and they'd have the best DJ. And it was like in the middle of the Gaylord outside party. And I was like, I feel like I was 19 again, I dressed up as Richard Simmons, and she dressed up as Jane Fonda. So I had like the shortest shorts. My nuts are about hanging out, and Jessica's like, we're being stupid dancing because nobody knew us too, which was so fun then. Yeah. And but I was like, they threw a good party. I was like, this is not a bad company, must be. And
do you feel like you had like a scarcity mindset at that time?
I had I didn't believe. I didn't believe. I was like, this could be possible. I couldn't believe a $35 investment. People were actually making $100,000 a year, or even $1,000. But she was making at the time probably about $1,000, $2,000 a month. The next month she won another trip, and she's like, "You're going?" I was like, "No." Arguing again. I was like, I want to stay at home.
Not this again, yeah.
But the next trip was to the corporate office. Only 2 people won it, and they got to take out of every month. And they picked us up car service, like Escalade. We go to this resort in Scottsdale that, man, it was like way, out of my pay grade. It was a spa, a resort and spa, like huge, nice. You walk in, your name's on the TV, welcome Rob and Jessica Hefley, and they had a bathtub that we could both get in, freestanding tub, like you were both, she's 6 foot tall, and I'm like, I'm like, this is really nice. And the next day we went and looked at the corporate office, which the brick and mortar helped me see that. I got to see this is a real building. These are real people actually working here, and they're actually good people. And the guys that gave us a tour, I'm still friends with. Like, they took us around, and we went to, an awesome restaurant. And I asked them, I drilled them. I'm like, I'm sitting there like interrogating them. Like, who's this person? Are they good? Do you like working here? I was asking the customer service people that. And that night we ate dinner with the CEO, and he sit there and same thing. He answered. I asked him what he was reading. I was like, "Who's your mentor?" I was sitting there drilling. He was like, "Who's this idiot?"
Yeah, that is fascinating. And to know how he got there.
Yeah, and because he's like 2 years older than me, and so just went through that, man. It like built my boat. I was like, this is legit.
Do you think just being attached to those people in that business specifically boosted your confidence in other areas? Because you're involved in more than just Plexus.
Oh yeah, I've always believed in myself. When the gas and oil thing, that business went down, because I had, like I said, I had 16 employees. I lost some of that, that spunk that I can do anything. That I'm talking about is like, hey, I'm going to sit back and lick my wounds for a while, and that started to believe, that part right there. And I really believed that kind of like, hey, we can do this. I was like, we can sit there and make a run at this. And that was November. December, January, Jessica hit like like the 6-figure mark. And she hit the top thing in April, like 11 months, like the top, very top. And like the last 4 years, we made like 7 figures, which blows my mind. And, from a supplement company. But
from a redneck, from Newton County, man.
Yeah, lived in digress from Dover, Arkansas, and but it's funny. What's even bigger about the money? Like the mindset, a lot of that, man. They put us around a lot of really good people, hearing a lot of good people, going to places I would never got to travel. I'm in Hawaii like 5 times now, and meeting some people, because both of us speak a lot for their stuff, so we haven't got to train, some like this last year, Jessica. There's one guy, he had a show on Spike TV. He's like a dead guy. He sit there when I was speaking one time on one thing. We were friends with him now. People that opens up new circles, and that you don't think, hey, this is, and
something special about another friend and I have been talking about this, but about being the dumbest guy in the room, or just being around really great minds. That's the benefit of the podcast. I get to talk to so many people.
That's why I love them, dude. That's why.
Yeah.
That was there to talk about, people. You get to know stuff about them. But what happened was, those in the personal development. Cause I already love to read, love the stuff. But the one thing I can tell you, though, like the first year we started, we moved up here, paid a ton of debt off, and bought, kind of our house we wanted to live in. Was I got bored. And it was like, this is not good for our marriage, not good for anything, and ended up buying another company. My brother and my sister and my nephew, another guy worked for us, and we've had it for 3 years now, and it's doing well.
What is that? What do you do with that?
It's Provision Storage Solutions. We lease trailers like Tyson, ConAgra.
That's like right off the interstate.
Yeah.
Go to Pottsville area, right?
Yeah,
like right out. Yeah, because I see your SUV or your not your SUV. Your
bus. RV. I got RV for sale. I'll give anybody a really, really good deal.
Yeah. I've seen that. That's
my wife won't get off my balls about it. She's like, get rid of it. But I would keep it. But she's like, no, you bought a cabin, so you got to get rid of it.
Oh yeah, I would trade that for a cabin, right?
Yeah.
Where's your cabin? Is up?
You know where Cliff House Inn's at? Highway 7. You go
yes, I do.
2 miles south of there, we got like a cabin of 59 acres. I'll take you up there sometime. It's a cool getaway. There's a pond out in front of it on the porch, and just chill and sit and hang out. But man, like that, that's the other business. We did that, and we own a small portion of CrossFit 479. It's kind of one of those things that Matt Lutz, the first owner, I love him. He's like a little brother. I didn't want to see it go away. Or
is he still involved with that? Or
he comes and works out some. He's firefighting now. I'm proud of him. He got he's doing that full time. And
here in Russellville.
Yeah. He's in Russellville, and his wife, she's a nurse, and she works Fort Smith, so they have crazy schedules. I haven't seen him as much. And the owners I partnered with, Bo and Sarah Jane Stallings, they're the ones that run it. I shouldn't say partner. I'm just like I'm one of their friends that helps them out a little bit when they need help. And I'm working on some
We have a few members at cross train over there.
Yeah,
too.
that's what I talked. I talked to Corey about even setting something up, and I was like, probably need to talk about that again sometime. About
we're down to network in any way because it's just
that's what too. I always say I was like, there's enough. It could be more gyms. You could open a new gym in Russellville right now and not even take a member from anybody.
And we're trying to kind of stay out of the boot camp business. Yeah. Like we did boot camps for a long time, man. And it's like we integrate so much cross training into the fitness kickboxing, and that's still like an extension of what we do. Yeah. And even adding the yoga, and we're gonna have like a Zumba class. Colby's sister's gonna teach a Zumba class.
I love the yoga class, dude. I would go.
We're gonna have even more. So I
look like the most uncoordinated. Look like a new calf out there.
It's challenging, is it not? I mean, I haven't done a ton of classes, like less than 20, but it is challenging to.
And Jessica's so good too. I mean, she makes it look easy, and you're like, what?
She really is. I'm looking forward to see Dr. Erin Claire. She's going to be involved when we get the new gym up and running. The area that the yoga room's going to be in, it's big, but we're going to make it just a little bigger. There's a wall that's just like trashed. We got to rebuild anyway, but we're just going to pop it out and make it bigger. So,
and now I'm working on a couple other things. Heath Graham? He's one of the coolest people in Russellville, man.
I feel like I do, man. How old is he?
He's 2 years older than me. I
feel like, maybe I don't.
He owns South Face Media. He has a hunting show called Strutting Bucks.
Okay, Motley knows him.
Yeah.
I do know him. I knew his name. Yeah, Motley has been maybe on his show or something.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably has. And then, but he does that, and he produces a show. It's on Discovery Channel called The Give and Right. It's another hunting show. And then he just does marketing for Nikon, and just he's self-taught, man. He's one of my best friends. We're working on some stuff, outdoor stuff right now. And he's got we're both a million ideas. Like we need to punch them down and do one or two. But we looked at buying a company not too long ago and trying to bring in. It's not really working out, but we're testing some products out, maybe selling in the outdoor world. And that, then also my dad, he sells chicken litter, which I know all you chicken farmers out there, but he sells about 300 tons a week.
Wow.
Hauls it all over Southern Missouri, Arkansas. But I've been working on, when I was in Ohio, I started working on this because I was trying to find a way to get out of pelletizing it and bagging it and reselling it. Like say, hey, you got, you got your 2 hemp plants at home and you want some really good fertilizer, here's you a small bag. Sit there if you want to put some in your food plot for your deer. If you want to sit there, if you have like a big farm, you want to put, super sack, got a ton of it, you can put it out when you want to, where it's little small pellets. So I've been working on that forever, but I think I finally got the right machine, set up where it's not crazy high.
Yeah, what a good idea. Yeah, ideas, man. I'm an idealist myself, and it's burned me many times. But it's like, I think one of the reasons I do the stuff I do is just like I always have ideas. Like I'm the ideas guy, and Cora is like, she is execution.
Yeah. And
I execute too, but and it's interesting with that relationship we have. If like she is not behind the idea, it is not going to go.
Well, I mean, same thing with Jessica. I mean, I feel like, I always talk about, it's like it's in Christian, but you're one. If you're not together, you're dragging one of the other. It's like dead weight constantly because they're not pulling. It's like, the whole thing about one horse can pull, I don't know how many pounds. The second horse, I think it's 5 or 6 times as much when you put 2 together. And that's the part of it. They're the ones that when you're down, instead of like, but they're not along with us. Like I told you this, shouldn't have done it. And me and Jessica the same way. We fought, because I have like 100 ideas a day, and I start trying to do way too. I'll have them sit there. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? Exactly. I was like, she's like, "Why are you on the bank? You're trying, to sit there." Those things. I was like, well, I got to talk the idea about. But what I've done so much better now, 10 years of marriage, is like, I keep her informed along the way, and I'm like, here's the capital investment, here's the time investment. And really now it's a big thing about time more than money, because like how much time is it going to take away from the family?
That's that becomes such an important factor. And like honestly, talking to people like you or like Shane Butler or just other people, it's like I've seen so many people that are successful, like Joe Rogan's just talking about on the Kevin Smith podcast the other day, which was really good. It wasn't as good as the last one. I cried like 3 times when they came on talking about their dogs dying. But he's just like, I just tell people no to all this stuff because I would be overextended if I didn't.
Yeah. Well, you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else.
Yeah, you said that earlier. That's a good mindset.
Like a lot of times I get asked all the weird stuff, like this. And sometimes they're good ideas, man. Sometimes there's stuff I want to do. And sometimes even good business, like, hey, there's a lot of money you can make there. But I'm like, now I was like, does it go along with my values? Does it go along? How much time is it going to take? How much money is it going to take? Is it something I really want to do? Is it something I'm getting excited about? Because one thing I've been trying so hard, like Ryan Stevens, he's my best friend. I'm like, we've not even known each other away, but we like.
How'd you two dudes meet? How long you know each other?
There's this men's thing, Wild at Heart thing, talked about. Like, there's one Man Alive expedition happens in Morrilton. We did like twice a year, and he came to that. I've been like probably 10 times. It takes that much for me to understand something. But I enjoy it now. Cause like you have like the roughest guys come and the ones that you're like people tricked them to get them there, and it's like it's based on these movies and different things, which I like that. Tell the story. And he was there, and I'm like, dude, I could tell he's different. And we were sitting at a table and talking and having fun. I was like, you're a jarhead and crayon. I was like, Marines eat crayons. I was talking trash to him. I really didn't even know him, stone cold killer over there. Like,
yeah. Dude, I saw him shoot that card in half the other day at the range, and I was like, bro, that's impressive.
He does stuff like that. He's freakish. Upside down, left-handed.
I haven't got to roll with him. He got his brown belt at Forza. He came to rank review there, but I saw him working the whole night, and like the dude's fluid. Like I wonder what he rolls like. I'm sure he's good.
He's nasty.
He looks stout. He looks strong.
I would shoot him.
Yeah, like he's better. He shoots cards in half. I'm screwed, man. I got to roll with the dude.
But he really. He's got a story. I want to tell the story. He was training. He was a Marine, and he was training with the guy. They were fighting, and this guy had beaten him for like 2 years, and he finally beat him. Finally Ryan submitted him, and Ryan was talking trash to him. He was like, early 20s, that bravado and Marine Corps, just that whole, you can imagine, I can imagine it. And the guy looked at him, he's like, I'll stab you in the parking lot. And Ryan stepped back for a second, he's like, what? He's like, I'll stab you in the parking lot. And Ryan's like, he goes, that was a thing he goes, and the guy's like, listen, he was like, I think it was one of his above him, like it was his sergeant. He was probably like corporal or something, or private. And he said, I realized, he's like, listen, this is one spectrum of violence. He goes, until you know how to do them all, shoot, long gun, carbine, pistol, knife. He goes, you better learn them all if you want. And he sit there and he's like, but I think that was part of him. He trained him, and he trains on all that stuff. I mean, there's all these things that he, and like he's a good teacher because he doesn't, he knows the percentage to go at. And
you got to be a student of the game like that too, man. Like that's Caleb and Dring were just in town this whole week with McMillan doing a shooting school where they're doing like long gun and different. I mean, they're slinging serious brass all day, like 600 rounds one day, 450. But it and then they were doing like full spectrum. I didn't do any. They may have done some knife work. I don't remember. It's all law enforcement training that they're doing. But
was it this weekend?
It was this whole week.
Okay, it's like last weekend. Ryan had a guy, Daniel Shaw, and another guy that was. They were crazy. I was watching them. They had pistols and rifles on the range. Yeah. And he would sit there and make them have misfires. He had a stick. He would sit there and poke and sit there and had like two, and it was like going through magazines after magazine, and it was like, it was wearing me out watching them and sitting there to see how they react. And it was like a drill. I mean, it went on for minutes. And
I've never done this, but I want to. McMillan's got to get a nice place to go shoot out between Dover and Hector, but it's just to like do something like, hey, hit those top hats for 2 minutes, then run over to that post, pick up your gun and shoot.
That's what I have to send you my diamond documentary, Plexus. That's what I did in mine. I took the Ron's range.
Oh, nice.
5 friends, and was like, do presses, hit, punch, run, pick up your long rifle, shoot twice, run back, shoot twice, run up, shoot twice in your heart. I mean, it's a different game. And
that's what I've heard. Like I've never done it,
it's
but
like breathing, man. It's like,
everybody's like, you're good at shooting. Like hit those top hats and then shoot. Like Drink's saying that just the other day. I mean, he's shot a lot and hits top hats he's trained martial arts like his whole life. So it's like, if that dude's saying that, man.
No, but me and Ryan, said back to the whole story. One of my best friends, met him at this men's retreat, which, we got to be friends after that. And he was, before he opened the range or anything, and just started talking a lot in common. And, but he's one of those guys, having a real friend you can be honest with and saying, hey, dude, you just need to pray for me and having a good day today. Check on, make sure my wife's still alive tomorrow. Make sure I'm still doing,
that's vital, man. This is like the sounding board of like, I mean, I have a friend like that. I've mentioned several times on this podcast, Colby, and it's just like, luckily I have a friend like that that's like, that does text me and is like, hey, just have a good day today, dude. Like you need, that's vital.
Oh, it changed my life. That's one thing about that mental life thing was like, I was like, there's other dudes struggling. They're not the best, want to be better, but they're quit posing and saying I've got it together. And that's where like me and him, we talk about, it's like, you can bleed on me if you need to. And I was like, having those friends like that you can be real and still be like, there's like, hey, I need this or that, whatever, but also each other. It's not accountability, but it's like relationship that I can hear it in your voice. Hey, what's up? Something ain't right, or I haven't heard from you in a couple of days, or what's going on. And it's like a real relationship. It's a real friendship that's reciprocal. It's not transactional, that you care about each other and you want the best for each other. And that's what, it's funny. We talk about the things we did, like, the Go Ruck, and we did, we did Murph this year today. I think both of us were both injured. Ooh. And I was like, it was the worst thing. I was like, the dumbest thing we could have both. I think he was worse off than I was, I think. And
one of our assistant coaches, I think, probably did the Murph with you guys, maybe. Did you do it at 479?
Yeah.
Brent?
Yeah.
Brent Rhodes? Yeah, he was.
It was horrible. But I was like, that, this trauma bonds, you suffer together. But at the same time, those friendships, man, are so valuable into that. But I've been trying to him, and I was looking at some more of your stuff, trying to get him to do a subscription service. I was like, man, hand-to-hand stuff you know how to do. I was like, executive service. I was like, shooting. I was like, you could sit there. And I was like, you've got 2 years of workouts you've done on sheepdog skills that, I was like, you train people all over the country. 'Cause he still he's in Denver right now training people in firearms. I'm like, you need to capitalize on this while you can.
Yeah.
And so I've been working on a little bit of stuff with him about that, trying to nudge him that way and see how he goes. Because, like, you don't want to work for the government the rest of your life.
Yeah, for real. I mean, that's, even with like what I'm doing with like my job as a historian, it's like over time I'm probably going to go back and get my PhD just so I can get a tenure track job, have less office hours, and do some things like that. And that's something I want to do too. You ever thought about writing a book? Like I've thought that a couple of times, just sitting here talking to you. You should probably do that.
I got chapters titled.
Yeah. See,
that's what, like it's one of those things too. I'm about to write an article for a friend to ask me to write an article about social capital, because I was talking about it, a couple of things. He's like, you should write an article. I was like, okay. But like writing to me is like getting naked. It's easier for me to run across Pleasant View Road naked than writing, because I feel like it's bearing your soul, that a part of it. But at the same time, I was like, man, if you have a story, I think you should share it. And that's like the funny, I've got these titles of chapters, and some of them I probably won't be able to use, but just about how just life, because there's so many things, man. I think sharing those ups and downs, because people a lot of times will see, like, now I get judged, like they'll see like it's like the second act. I was like, hey, you didn't see all the failures. You didn't see that, hey, I probably should be divorced, not have kids, and living in a van down by the river, and or be in prison or dead, several times over. And that's the part too. I think a lot of times that's why I don't judge people hardly ever, because I was like, hey, you probably don't know their story or know what they've been through.
Yeah,
or even
everybody's
what they're
fighting something.
Oh yeah,
and that I have gotten more empathetic about stuff like that just from my own experiences, and just since being an adult. Yeah. Honestly,
wait till you have kids. You're like, man, I used to judge people with kids all the time.
Oh, I know.
In mine now, I'm like, gosh, I'm like the worst.
I get it. Yeah, I'm sure that I will have some revelations because I have several friends with kids, and like there's sometimes that like I don't get it. I'm like, yeah, no, but like, let's go hang out, and they're like, yeah, no, I can't, or whatever it is, and it's like my empathy there, I'm sure we'll go through.
Like, me and Jessica, we've done with that. To be fair, we both have like our Sabbath day. Like I get Monday, she gets Wednesday, and if I want to lay in bed and not do anything, she's got the kids. She's got to take care of everything. Or if I want to go work out, I get up early. But we both have our own free day, where it's like, hey, this is your free day. And sometimes it's just 6 hours. And some days we have to change up. But what happens is it gives like, hey, it's fair. We both get.
Well, and you need that mental R&R, that time where I'm the same way, and like that's like I usually get up extra early in the morning, so I have some solitude, where that's when I want to practice mindfulness or whatever I'm doing, where it's like I got a couple hours where it's just me and Mr. Pupperman outside, and hanging out. I don't have really to answer to anybody or do anything. I'm just existing and thinking about my day.
Yeah, that's good. I think just I was like, what gives you life? And sometimes like a massage, get a good massage or something like that. But also like having lunch with somebody that's life giving, that you can laugh with, joke with, that part where. And like I said too, I think being alone, huge deal. And it took me forever to be alone, just because I was like, I didn't like that part of my life, sit there. But I think the more you accept yourself, more you love yourself, you're not sitting there or whatever head trashes, okay, that's not true.
Well, it's so easy to beat yourself up over stuff that's not even going on right now. Past regrets, whatever it is, that you're just still living in that mindset.
What's that? When you start to live in the present too, I think it's a huge deal, because you can sit there and create scenarios about tomorrow, next week, next year, thinking about the worst.
Yeah, not even past thinking, just like, oh my, yeah, that's probably one of the only things that has ever caused me anxiety, is thinking about what's to come. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, the past is unfortunate, but I can get over it. So can everybody else. But you get to looking at the future. It's what am I going to do? The answer. It's so easy to get the dwells.
Oh, yeah. That's where, though, man, I think, too, just the more you can be present. In relationships, even like here, and sit there. That's what I love about podcasts, too. I think it's some true interviews where people are present, because they don't have their phones. They don't have, the stuff they're going. You have a more present, sit there and get to talk to people a little bit different. You see that, too, with people that are famous. Sometimes I think that's the only time you hear like a real side of them, and they'll do stuff and reveal who they really are a lot of times. I don't know if you listened to that Edward Norton Jr. the other day, which I wrote.
Oh, yes. And it was so good.
But it was, the humility, too. about who he's like, the thing about American History X liberating him to be able to do other stuff and not be pigeonholed there. But it's like, my brother makes fun of me because he can beat me up and outweighs me, but him being honest and not being like, oh, I got this or whatever. And just, seeing a real side of somebody that's completely not posing or not trying to act like they have it together, even though he's done some great movies. And still,
I want to see that new movie that they were talking about with Baldwin, and sounds fantastic.
But that's one of those things. But I still have, what about you writing? You said you want to get a PhD, but you're going to have to write a dissertation. You might as well make a book out of it.
Yeah, well, and I wrote a three chapter thesis for my master's degree. I could go in that direction. I got some other ideas. Like, it's kind of figuring out. Like, I'm in a phase right now where I'm trying to figure out like what I want to do. Like, it would be something very rewarding. It would be like a lifelong goal if I'm going to do it. Whether I'm going to do it sometime in the next 5 years or if I'm going to wait till 10 out, kind of get into that next phase a little bit and do it when I'm 40 is up in the air. I don't know.
PhD, what would you get it in? Like education or?
Okay, so, no, probably. So there's a degree at ASU in like cultural studies. Mm-hmm. It's actually a doctorate of philosophy in cultural studies. So it would, I have a big background in philosophy. So it would open that up a little bit more. And like, for example, a guy just graduated from there and he wrote an 800-page dissertation on the band Drive-By Truckers. Yes. So, like, honestly, I could...
You said 800-page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, man. Imagine how much the dude loves the Truckers.
How do you get 800 pages out of that?
Well, think about, like, so Panic, I could easily do 800 pages on Panic.
I feel like the way more material there, probably.
Yeah. You see, what I kind of want to do is a project on, like, the Truckers... Panic bought their first tour van. Yeah. And the front man, Patterson Hood's dad, was in the bass session player for Muscle Shoals Sound, where Leonard Skinner and the Allman Brothers and Panic and all these people recorded. And they're all connected. All these bands, and several of them we've talked about. So it's like you could honestly do, it's kind of, they're all non-stereotypical Southern bands. They're not, there's sort of these Southern rock bands who are all about equality and human rights. And it's kind of, I think it's the result of the counterculture movement. Yeah. Right. It's like, this is what we ended up with, is these types of bands in the South. So like Panic is from, Georgia. Drive-By Truckers are from Alabama, I believe. But it's like there's several bands like them, Vic Chestnut, Todd Snyder, that they're all connected. They've all played, Colonel Bruce Hampton. They've all played with each other. Like Bruce Hampton was the mentor for like most of the people I just mentioned. And there's a big thesis there and it's like they're bands that are singing about and writing content about loving each other instead of whatever, it's, so that's something that's what I put the most thought into, because I've already done the martial arts, but I may not do any of that and just write a couple books.
There's so much there too. That's what I think the dissertation part of PhD scares me more than anything.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah, you got your master's. You could just as easily go do something like that.
Because I have one class, and I would have an education specialist in EDS, I think, in counseling. But I was like, I don't really care. But I probably might get it someday, just to say I have another piece of paper that.
I had our counselor on the podcast the other day. Cody Davis is his name, and man, he is such a great role on campus for us to have. Like, he's counselor, but he's also a psych adjunct, so he teaches a couple psychology classes, and he does all of this career planning with students. It's just such he's a resource, big time.
Well, that's what, one of the biggest, I talk to people probably who come talk to me about business stuff and talk to them about, what are they doing? They don't like what they're doing. And, that's probably, that comment, especially with men, more than I would, they're just like, I'm like, well, do something else. I'm like, get a side hustle, I was like, big thing I would always tell people is like, pay your debts off. I was like, when you don't owe any money, you can pick up, move to Alaska if you want to. I was like, if you owe $100,000 to Fannie Mae and whoever else, then I was like, you can't really do that stuff until sit there, you're a slave to the debtor. And but I was like, you can have a job, make money, and have something recreationally, and it scratches that itch. But you have so many people that go to college, and they're like, I'm going to do this because it makes money.
I tell people about, like, I've just been joking about it a lot because I've just kind of got some context on all this because I'm just 32. But I remember when I was 19, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a radiology technician, guys, $36K a year. All right, I'm going to only go to school for 2 years, too. Okay, that's important because you see the money that I'm going to make, and it's half the time.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? Like, into like I suck at science. Like, math and science is not my bag. I became a historian.
You're just
like
pushing a button though. Like, hey, it's like, make sure you're not pregnant, are you?
Yeah, it's
you're not. You go to school for 2 years for that. You think about.
Well, and two, like, I didn't even think about like what it would be like performing the task of the job. It was like, it was a number, and it was just like my idea of it, of getting a career after high school. It was not. I wasn't prepared.
Okay, if you could go back 18 again, what would you do? I mean, would you right now?
Ah, man, I wouldn't have dropped out of college. It's not that I regret it. I dropped out of college like 3 times though. I didn't go back till I was 23. So from like 19 to 23, I was kind of a loser.
That's the best 10 years of my life too. I know how that is.
Yeah. Well, it was a good time. It was a fun time. I look back on it and I'm like, yeah, okay. But once I just like dedicated my life in a direction from 23 to, I think I graduated when I was with my master's when I was 28. From then to then, and from then to now, what if I would have gotten in that direction at 19? I was capable. I just did not know or have the confidence. Like, if I really wished I would have had more people around me. And I was just thinking this today. We were talking about creating stuff. I wish I had more people around me now that encouraged me to create more stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. So with Judson, I try to,
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that.
And I try to put environments where they're around stuff, other kids. And even yesterday, I was talking to a guy, like his kid, I could tell he's creative, and I was asking about Scratch. He's coding with Scratch and looking for Judson to be able to do that because he likes, something better than the iPad than watch YouTube videos about putting toys together. But, sit there, have something, how can I put more opportunities in that? Because, we travel a ton with them and letting them see stuff that they would, and they don't know how.
Exposure.
Man, they've been exposed. I mean, we're going to Costa Rica for Thanksgiving. And I was like, dude, I'm going.
Yeah, you said that because I was trying to get you on a podcast date, and I was just like, man, this guy's making time to come on the podcast in light of going to Costa Rica and other things we're talking about. But I do appreciate you making the time, man.
No, but I was like, we took them to Hawaii, and like when Hawaii was, went in the mountains and went to like lavender farms, and actually went milk some goats at the biggest like goat farm in Hawaii, which is funny. And doing stuff like that outside. We stayed at this Airbnb a couple of days after we got out of the resort, just trying to expose them to other people and other things and let them see that stuff. Because like being here, man, there's not a whole lot you see, but I think it's not having like, I wish I would have done it differently, but I want them to have like, hey, I don't have to go to Arkansas Tech if I don't want to. If I want to go out and travel for a year, if I want to go to another country for a year, if I want to be able to do that and have some if I want to go to be
that's
HVAC.
That's encouraging that you can.
Yeah.
That you said several things like that. I was like, man, I remember you were talking about just having conversations with your kids about your shortcomings or whatever. Like, my dad a while back like apologized to me about something that happened when I was a kid, and I was like, you got any more of those apologies? I was like, that was great. You selected that one. I really appreciate it. Life's better now for me. But you got any more of those?
Yeah, but I mean, like my parents too, man. Like I said, my mom, before my parents got divorced, there's always these little like things you look back and it changed your life. I mean, it like pivoted it. My parents bought me a set of World Book encyclopedias. I don't think my dad probably never paid for them, but I had a set of them. And like 7 years old, and dude, I would read them, go through, and just curiosity. And I've always said, I mean, Google's like my old book, and I'll get the rabbit holes, and then I'll have like 5 books ordered on Amazon, and
Same.
sit there, go through that stuff. But I was like, information is available. You can do anything.
And I feel like we haven't even really fully realized how like, I stopped asking people for questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I bother Rob with that when I can Google it?
Oh yeah.
Like I only arrived at that because I got frustrated with people asking me questions that they could have Googled. I'm like, did you Google this? Because I'm just about to Google it for you.
Yeah, that's what, it's so funny you say that, Heath Graham, man. A lot of times I'll sit there and ask, he's like, did you not try to Google it first? And I was like, well, I knew you'd tell me. I didn't want to look at the 10 resources there. I knew you'd tell me the best way. He's like, shut up. But I was like, that part too, Google, you can know how to do anything. I mean, anything you want to do. And I was like, I think before 1800 people, if you're exposed to 50 books, I think that was a huge deal.
Oh, I was thinking about that a while back. So I was teaching about like our first batch of American authors that really started, like James Fenimore Cooper and stuff, like our first real American culture post-revolution. That was like, we've had people born here in America that they were born after the revolution. They're Americans, and then they grew up, and when they were 32, they wrote a book, and here it is.
I mean, like, there's so much there too. Like, and one thing I'm really big into, and this is kind of shifting. I don't even know how to deal with this sometimes. Like I said, there's part of me that wants to go out, and live in a cabin, live very simply, almost like the village, live in a place very protective.
There's no overhead traffic.
Yeah,
no
make sure
airplanes flying overhead.
You can't fly over. But, that part of it is, I think about, some simplistic, stuff growing up, and like, I want to get a greenhouse and grow some stuff, and even like I grew our own food plot this year, and I killed a deer. I seen like the circle of life. So Jessica's like, that's not funny. I was like, yeah, it ate something I planted that I put down, and then I shot it and ate it, and but I was like, that was kind of cool. It's something it wasn't just me just going out and shooting a deer. It was like, something I had is a full circle there. But I was like, I want to plant some other stuff and get a small greenhouse, back our house, and have our kids be a part of that, and let them see and let them know, hey, your food comes from different places. And even like later night, when I was letting them watch me gut that deer and seeing all that, I wanted, was like, hey, your food doesn't just always come from a plastic wrapper, from Walmart.
Yeah.
And
I want to do so much more, and we're going to, like, I'm chickens, and like we're about to redo, like we just put the fence in like this week, so that's several other little projects with we're doing landscaping, flower herbal garden beds, and some other things. So
that's what, we're in Hawaii. We stayed at this house, man. It was like a small little, it was like just for herbs, like small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the coolest things. It had a like, I was like, how smart is that? You can sit there and go pick up, you're about to cook something sometime,
Well, I've been seeing these gardens that a few things. So like greenhouses, yeah, but people building a greenhouse around their house. And growing everything between the outside of the greenhouse and the walls of their house.
Yeah, it's like an add-on, kind of like.
Yeah, and then I saw this on like a Arkansas news show on YouTube, but it was like some sort of sealed-in garden that you can grow year-round. But it's not. It's kind of like a greenhouse in theory, but they've got a water system and a filtration system. And
you ever been to Disney World?
No, but Cora's going for the second time in 1 year, and I just want to buy guitars, man.
I've been twice, and that was enough. It's Plexus trips, both of them. We got to take our kids. But I think it's I don't remember which park it is, but they have a thing you can go through. They grow a lot of their own food there.
Wow.
Hydroponic. I mean, like, there's some pot growers that, like, I know are just like sitting there. This is the greatest place.
Great setup.
It was set. I mean, it was like, I was like, they grow so much stuff here. I was like, it was like a ride. You go through and kind of, and I was like, my favorite part of the whole week at Disney World, I was like, this is pretty cool. Seeing people doing something and completely taking something, you wouldn't think Disney World had to be growing their own food. And it was just a different thing.
I bet you've seen, just in your travels, a lot of states with legal cannabis. What are your thoughts on our current situation? Because there's just so few, like we've had medicinal for so long, but man, it just seems like the red tape on allowing these people to open it, because is there even half a dozen dispensaries open in the state?
Here's what I'm going to be completely honest. Some of my friends here that listen to this think, because I'm definitely, like I said, I'm a Christian, but I am pro cannabis all the way, and I own Charlotte's Web. You ever heard of it?
I mean, just the classic cartoon.
You need to Google Charlotte's Web. It was the first cannabis they used for the little girl that had seizures.
Okay, yes. Okay, I do know about that.
My best friend in Plexus, that is his family.
Oh, wow.
And we got to buy in pre-IPO. It's actually publicly traded in Canada.
Great.
And right now, if you want to buy the good stock chip, it's down right now because they're still growing, but they're not. It'll go back up. But they actually have farms all through Colorado, hemp and cannabis. But they made the cannabis a really low THC just for that. They have a strain. It's actually, I think it's the first strain to actually have a patent. And because it's made where kids can take it, but her seizure stopped. There's actually on, I think, a CBD magazine this month. It shows a picture of Charlotte, the little girl, which is kind of cool.
That's that and the Parkinson's. I've seen people with Parkinson's treated, and it's like, we got to get past the stoner stereotype and some other things where it's like, I didn't even know for the longest time, and was pro cannabis, that it even had medicinal value. I thought that was like something that people were just like politicians like getting high, and this is what they're packaging it as.
I didn't inhale, but here's what I really believe. I think now I always tell people this. I was like, have you ever? 20, 30 years ago, even, have you ever seen a pothead have a domestic violence?
No, it's always alcohol.
Yeah,
honestly.
I've never, I've never seen. I was like, you might see him eating a bag of Cheetos in the corner over there, but I was like, not beating on. I was like, and two, I was like, medicinally, I was like, there's so many things it can do. Like, actually, Plexus has a CBD oil that's coming out. I've been taking it for 6 months, and I took Charlotte's Web before then, but we're not. They're still getting all the stuff ready. They have like an isolate and have like the full thing, so full spectrum. But I really think, man, in Arkansas, I have 2 family members, close family, like immediate family members that had opioid addictions. One of them was in the hospital for 9 weeks, should be dead. He shouldn't be alive. But by the grace of God, he's out fine. And he 20 years of getting prescribed stuff. And just constantly,
it's so bad too. Like I've developed empathy for that just through knowing people like what you're talking about, not necessarily family members, but friends and acquaintances and man, on a lot of that stuff, benzos and other things, like they don't tell you that when you stop taking them, that your life is going to suck.
Oh yeah. That's what, and for pain relief, I had a friend a lot of time. I was like, listen, I'd rather you smoke weed every day than take pills. Just because I was like, it's one of those things that I think big pharma is really fighting. I don't think that. I know that they fight because they're losing. They're not the ones trying to make money, off of it. And even some of the companies they have, because like Charlotte's Web actually had, I can say this, I think they were growing weed before it was even legal. So they had farms and fields, and like a lot of these other companies that are public and stuff don't have any product. They're buying from somebody else, or they're not.
I've just keyed in on that.
They're they're not real. They're sitting there, so they have these crazy stock swings that go really high and really, but they're not. But Charlotte's Web, like I think you're going to be in Kroger's and a couple other. They're not your gas station. CBD.
I know.
That's what you know. Like
that's crazy to see that too. There is gas station CBD everywhere.
But they have like dog treats and stuff. But I was like, there's medicinal things. And I think there's all kinds of stuff. Like hemp should have never been outlawed, but it was. It's like the dumbest thing ever. But
I think George Washington grew hemp, if I'm not mistaken.
He had wood teeth too. And I think he had a couple of girlfriends, but.
Yeah, I saw some meme getting passed around earlier that was talking about it. It was like a George Washington quote, but it wasn't real. And I didn't really know the person, but I was friends with him, and I was like, dude, he didn't say that. He really didn't.
Bill Clinton said that,
It's funny. I just taught about Bill Clinton this week in Arkansas history.
Bill Clinton definitely made some bad decisions, but we have she's kind of a nanny. She goes to college. She cooks a couple times a week. Country girl, love it. That's what I get to eat good because she'll cook. She's cooking right now, watching the kids.
Nice.
And she's a sweet girl. Loves Jesus. Never done anything wrong in her life. I think she turned her roommate for smoking weed. He's kind of, talking about just that. But she met Bill Clinton in I think it's New York City or DC. She's last week, and there's a picture. And I was sitting there, man, I have ADHD and impulsive. And I'll just say stuff, do stuff, and I'm typing. I'm like, where's his hands at? and I almost hit enter. I'm like, I stopped myself, because she's next to Bill Clinton, and I was like, and I told her yesterday, I was like, I almost stopped that, but I didn't want your friends and family to think, who's this dude? Where's Bill's hands at?
Neil Harrington, by chance, he was just on a podcast. He's the art gallery director at Tech.
Okay.
He was doing something in downtown Little Rock, like next to the Clinton Library, and Bill Clinton happened to be there and like walked over and was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Like looked at his artwork, and like they were doing these steam presses, and it was a super cool thing. But he's just hung out with him and shook his hand. He's like, that guy brings an incredible energy.
Well, like there's people like that, and you ever did Strength Finder 2.0? It's another personality test. A lot of business people. It's a good one too, but it has like 34 strengths. To get your top 5, and one of mine is called woo, and Bill Clinton has the gift of woo. He woos you over.
Yeah.
Sit there. I mean, I remember as a kid watching him on Arsenio Hall, playing the saxophone. Man, I'm like, who, sit there and goes on. People, if it's legal for him to run for president today, he could run and win. And that's what I mean. It's just what's crazy. And I mean, even though everything, all the people have died, all the women, all the stuff, he could still, people would overlook that because they like him.
Well, and I mean, honestly, I don't know of a time when our economy was really doing better than his presidency was not terrible. And honestly, you look back on it, it's very conservative.
That's, and that's what, I feel like we're in such a mess now. I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm Republican. I'm definitely not Democrat. 'Cause I'm not socialism. Like, I don't understand socialism. So I just feel like it's just not a good place. But I might even say I don't libertarian. But I live like my big thing is like we all need to take responsibility and do our part.
And that's a nonpartisan idea.
Yeah, and that's like I was like, hey, sit there, and I believe in helping people out when you can, especially the community. I believe all these things, and and there's some stuff biblically I don't said more towards Democrat, but I was like Republican, like people, we have like some evangelical Christians that love Trump so much and think, I was like, he's not a good person. I was like the economy is definitely good, but I was like,
he's a business guy.
Yeah, he is a business guy,
and he's popular.
Yeah, and
he's like a pageant contestant or something.
And I was like, he's one of those good old boys too, just in a way like Bill Clinton is like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And that's where, and the impeachment, I mean, that's the similarities between those two. Like, hey, I'm going to make this work, and I'm not going to follow your rules. And that's where I don't know how it's going to happen. But then I look at people, though, especially I think because the way, especially being raised in the South, that they look for a president to be a savior and to change everything. And what happens is because we have such a division between, there's like, they can't do anything when they get in there hardly. And it's just like, that's not going to happen. I was like, it's going to take people wanting to do their part and wanting to make a small, on the local levels and go up gradually.
Yeah, man, the partisanship is, and I don't have solutions. I almost like don't like complaining for that reason, because I don't have a better answer, way, or idea other than all people in all three branches, and state and local and that federal government's got to work together more. Like or federal government has got to be less. I'm really more of a states' rights person, honestly. Like, whereas because it's like with the cannabis issue, federally illegal.
It's the dumbest thing.
But medicinally or recreationally legal in I think over 25 states if you count medicinal or recreational. Yeah. But it's like on those types of issues and many more throughout history, it's like the difference in states' rights and federal government is interesting.
I think Trump will try to make it legal before. I think that's going to be his punch. Even the Democrat, I think that's going to be his.
I just don't, man. If he and Bernie square off, like, I just see him beating Bernie, I like Bernie, I really do, but I don't think he can beat him.
I think it's about Bernie I don't like. It's so I just feel like socialism. You look at Venezuela, any other countries, and I don't think capitalism. I know we're not really completely real democracy. And all you go look at all of that, but I'm like, hey, we're already paying for so many things we're entitled. And I was like, we have a generation, your generation, mine almost two millennials, man, they have so much. There's $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. I was like, forgiving that, I was like, where is that going to come from?
True that.
And I was like, right now I have healthcare. It's another thing too. I mean, I have 5 people in my plan at my trailer business. I pay for half their insurance, and they pay for the other half. And that's the only way they can afford it. It's $5,000 a month. It's crap insurance. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm like, and they said, pay for everybody's insurance. And I was like, do you have any friends who are Canadians? I got guys know I worked with several, but one of my buddies, he worked for BP Aramco, and it's huge. And part of his deal, he got a severance package. He's like, I want U.S. insurance for life, which was smart. At the time it wasn't that much, but it was like, we'll pay for it and set it up. He flies from Calgary, Alberta to Denver twice a year to get his physicals, to get all of his stuff. He goes, if I wait for a doctor in Canada, I'll wait for sometimes 2 months.
Wow.
For specialists,
yeah.
And that's what, the part too, I think everybody should have health care. Everybody should have availability to health care. But I'm like, hey, the Obamacare is like it's been a middle class tax. It's really hurt some people. I mean, teachers, that's when you see school teachers ask them how much they're paying for insurance. And I'm like, that's crazy. And even some of my employees, they don't want to get it because it's so, that part of it. But I was like, politics, I think just like our local government politics with the casino or whatever, I was like, hey, agree to disagree. It's okay. You can want this and like this and still like the person. And, and that's where I think a lot of times people don't understand that. It's vote for it. It's your freedom. You don't have to sit there and hate somebody because they're not going to vote for what you want to.
Yeah, I know that's just politics in general creates so much strife, man.
I think Bernie's got a good chance to win, though. Like just because millennial vote, and I was like, I always joke with Jessica. One of the last things, I haven't paid my student loans completely off. I pay every month. And she's like, well, I was like, they'll be forgiven. She's like, you're crazy. I was like, I really think they will. I've told her that for 10 years.
I've wondered about that a lot. I've got student loans and we're paying them off quickly, but I wonder if they'll get forgiven just because like what you're talking about, or there are some ways, like some of my loans are different interest situations, and then some of them are like with what we do with the nonprofit work, I qualify to get some of it forgiven through that if I would ever follow through on it.
Yeah, that stuff I think, and that's like, to me, like, it's good. Military, teaching, any of that, I think that's part of it too, but having some prerequisites, I guess I should say, like, hey, you're doing something good, and
yeah, I know. If you go, it's like if you're going to go contribute to society, like with what I'm doing, like it's like, hey, yes, you taught me how to do this, and now I'm giving back by doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I'm a huge person at that, and we try. Like one of the things we live by too, we try to give away 10% besides tithe. And sometimes it's for helping adoption, sometimes it's helping for college, sometimes, people, stuff like that, because people trying, that's a big thing for me. Are you trying to do better? Are you trying to make a dent in where you're at? But I go back and forth, man, just because I like having, I guess, both sides use fear, and it drives me nuts, Because when you check fear, it makes me. I don't like fearful. It makes me rise up. And I was like, I hate that bully part. And I was like, like I love guns, but I hate the way the NRA does stuff a lot of times. I was like, that's not the smart.
It creates hysteria.
It does, And at the same time, I'm like, both sides. I was with just the illegal immigration. I'm like, you sit there, both sides use it, and like they're going to deport you tomorrow. All these things, and vice versa. I'm like, hey, let's figure out a way to make people be citizens and pay taxes, make it easy. But I grew up with an illegal Mexican that lived in our not a carport, but part of our house. His name was Cruz Rodriguez, and he was my buddy. I would go get books from the library at Deer School, Louis L'Amour, and I was like, man, he worked his butt off. Sit there and just, I was like, if I lived in Mexico, there wouldn't be a fence high enough or river wide enough, that I wouldn't make it to the U.S. and make 10 times what I make a day. So I just, there's all those things that you have. You can talk for days about, but I was like, big thing is, what are you trying to do to make it for yourself and for your family and your friends, and are you making a dent in society?
Yeah. Which are so many people not contributing. Yeah. That is, which we could, man, this is a rabbit hole.
It is. It
really is, like, because we're, these topics is like, that's like I said earlier, it's like I offer no solutions. I'm just here to commentate.
But as I think you have to talk about it some, because out of sight, out of mind. I know in my life, when I look at stuff that way, it just gets worse. Like in my health, my knees, like I didn't want to ever get my knees checked out because I was like, you're going to have surgery, knee replacement surgery, or different things, pains. But I was like, out of sight of mind. I was like, how can we make this better? What can we do? Like I said, I think locally, always starting out, but I think we have such division locally that.
Well, and I think just everybody having a sense of civic duty, like in whatever way you're capable of giving back. My critique on like a local situation is nobody is equipped or trained to give back. There are some decent leaders or people that get in there, but it's like we have nobody with a political science background in the local government. I have a political science master's degree.
So you gonna run? Is that what you did?
No, that's that's so stereotypical that I will not.
Yeah.
I've got better ideas, so let me get, like, every politician I've talked to in the last year locally, I just didn't like the way it was going, so I decided to run. And it's just like, yeah, I don't like the way it's going either, and I have kind of a background. I could do something. People have talked to me about it a lot, and it's just like, man, it's just like, I got the same story as you. I don't like the way it's going. But it's like, and I have the training, but it's just like, I don't know how to help.
Yeah.
Like that's more than anything is like, it's such a big problem, and that I don't, and honestly, like working with a bunch of unequipped people is going to be difficult for me, because it's like, it's somebody that's never had a political science course in a college. Running the political science system.
I totally. And here's what I really believe. I think local government, and I hate comparing so much stuff to church, but I think it's like pastoring, man, is the hardest job. Because you're gonna call like 24/7, and everybody's judging you constantly.
And honestly, it's not paid. It doesn't pay enough. Like for what you do.
I had a friend about to start, and I was like, listen, I'll be praying for you, dude. But I was like. And truthfully, it's something you have to be called to do. And I think civic duty, I think we're all called to a certain level. And I think, there's people that have their agendas, they're trying to sit there, and that's like the people that really need to be there. And, or not, because they're like, man, I couldn't change anything, or I can't do anything. And because the way our system is so set up where it's almost impossible. And it's just, and too, the thing about Donald Trump being president is kind of a little bit, I think him running for president makes Oprah think she can run for president. It makes Mark Zuckerberg think he can run for president. It makes, I'm serious. There's all these people now. It's like, hey, The Rock talking about it. I'm like, okay, he's an actor and wrestler, But you have these people like, sit there telling them like you could do
entertainers.
This. Yeah, they're definitely entertainers, but it's part of, I guess, some of them, they can be seen really well. But I was like, I think. Even Trump, I don't think he thought he would be where he's at. I don't think it's like, hey, I got into this, now I guess I better finish it.
It's like a popularity contest, man. That's even with just our local politic. It's very much the who and then like, hey, my buddy's over here, I'm gonna help them out, and they get all the contracts and
and that's where, man, good old boy systems always, and it's hard.
Dude, I think we complain about it just because we're a small community and we can see it. Yeah. But like, I've had my experiences and pitfalls with the local government on the gym situation.
Oh my gosh!
But imagine what LA is like. Imagine what Dallas is like. I do find some gratitude in thinking that way. I'm like, well,
could be a lot worse.
It could be a lot worse. And like, just in Arkansas, like I got two of my mentors, one's in Northwest Arkansas, one's in Little Rock. They don't own a building because they can't buy one. It's not possible for them. Like it could be, but it's just like the commitment for one at the age that he's at. Yeah. It's like he actually owns some property he could build, but it's like codes in Little Rock, man.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I have one of my best friends, it's like, the Stanley Brothers, the Charlotte's Web guys, that's his brother-in-law's. They have a house outside Franklin, Tennessee, Leapers Fork, and 25 acres on an HOA. What color fence you have, what kind of driveway you have. Can't be shooting guns up there. Sabbath, it's crazy, man. I'm like, I was like, do we live in America? I was like, and that's where it's the same thing too. I wanted to raise my kid. I was like, I live 10 acres outside in Center Valley Road, and I shoot guns and, do all kind, bow and fireworks. And
man, my sister-in-law lives out probably not too far from you guys, like cool. Right there by the school.
Yeah, I mean, I live a little bit closer to the other side, but that's where that thing too. But we do have, I think too. You want to deal with the devil, I think we know. I mean, kind of sit there, and I was like, and even with the casino, I was like, hey, it's going to be here, but I was like, make sure we get the best. Deal. I was like, I mean, it's going to be a tax on the lower class and poverty level. I mean, you're going to be people the first week of that there spend their checks, and the rest of the month be hungry.
Which is sad to see, but it's like the way I've always looked at it is like, man, those people are probably going to do something like that anyway. It's not the institute. I don't know. Like, people make mistakes. People make poor choices. Nobody's making them go gamble their check away.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they have to make that choice, and it's where it's one of those things that, I mean, you have people like their whole thing is like, it's going to bring jobs. I'm like, okay, it's like, say you want a casino, just say you want a casino, not just for jobs or not for tax. But, like this, like they want to justify their answer why they're choosing.
That did it for me. Like, I wouldn't have cared initially, but it's like the economic incentives for the community. I was like, oh, I didn't think about all that. Great. What a bonus. Because, I mean, man, I don't care. I'm like, are we going to have concerts? Can I
That's what a live, that's the only thing I want, like a live music venue.
Yeah, like, I was like, you guys,
a restaurant.
It's going to be an amphitheater. And apparently there might be some sort of like a John Daly restaurant going in the Legends. Because Shina trains at our gym, does a lot of stuff she runs a golf course and just different things, but apparently they approached him about doing something like that. So, but yeah, there'd be tons of great restaurants, entertainment, concerts,
buffets.
Yeah, I mean, I
that's my favorite part of Vegas. Like, you can eat anytime you want, anything you want.
For sure, man. I've been to Vegas several times. It's always fun. It's like, that's like one of the cities I'm like pretty comfortable in, like moving around, traveling around, driving on the interstate, anything.
Well, you can like stay indoors and walk through like 7 casinos.
Oh yeah, like the outside. Venetian and Palazzo, man. Have you ever stayed there?
We just at MGM Grand. We'll walk over there to New York outside, and it's so long, and the towers there at MGM, around. It's weird because you'll be like, you lose time of day, like you don't realize what time it is. You walk outside, and it's like daylight, and it's like
walking around Vegas is weird too, because you'll be like, I'm gonna walk down to the casino down there, and you walk for like an hour, and you don't make it.
You see some weird stuff out there.
Yeah, that was like culture shock for me too. I remember like, I just got there, and like I was getting like I'd like crossed like the walk over the strip, and I'd gone down like the escalator, and at the bottom is somebody there like clicking something, like handing me these like naked lady pictures. I was like, whoa, I don't want this. My wife is here. Corey and I weren't married, but it was just like, dude. They make this little sound, and they get you to
like looking at what's like, it's funny. That reminds me, I took Matt Lutz to the CrossFit Games in LA. I think it's 3 or 4 years ago. He'd never flown, never been to California, and I took him to Venice Beach. And man, if you've ever been to Venice before,
I've walked around down there. I didn't get to stay as long as I wanted. We walked around Venice and Santa Monica.
We got bikes and rode up, all the way up to pier. Sit there up and down. There's somebody out there, there's people smoking weed there, and somebody's on coke, and there's the guy preaching. There was a guy, Satanism, and he went to the Muscle Beach and he didn't muscle up. But it's like such a weird. You have all these people like in one little place. And it's just, just craziness. And he was said kind of just like mind. He's like, what is going on here? I was like, there's a little bit of everything here.
Yeah, hey, that's the type of experience that opened your mind. I remember going to Worlds the first year as a purple belt in California, which would have been like 2014, and realizing how big the jiu-jitsu community was, and then like seeing jiu-jitsu that like large scale, it blew my mind. It changed everything I was thinking about at the time. But it was just seeing the amount of diversity and stuff within our community, and then also like being in California, jumping in the ocean for the first time, all of that at the same time I was realizing how big jiu-jitsu was. So
that's what in California too, you have people training. That's where before we opened CrossFit, we went up there and I went to several CrossFits in California just to look at them, and it was like such a a grassroots thing then, where people, you could do, as long as you had like a trainer and had like paid your fee and had a building, you could do it in your garage. You know, sit there and stay as a CrossFit. And we went through we did like from San Diego all the way, and we ended up flying out of like San Francisco, and just kind of went to several of them to see just tons of things for me and Jessica like 10 years ago. And it was definitely different, you know, just how in California too, you know, because healthy, there's the stuff there that you get to see and do. But California, I love to visit, but I wouldn't live there. There's no way I'd live there.
No way, man. And honestly, like, if I get to keep continuing to have the experiences I have, I'll probably never move from. Like, Cora all the time is just like, you know, when we get our forever home, I'm like, baby, we've made it. This is it. We made it. We got a house. We're good. I told you, like, I have no aspirations to do. Like, I'm tired for like 12 years of like trying to get this house. I don't even want to talk about getting rid of it.
That's what I told Jessica. You can bury me in the backyard out there in the tree. I was like, I'm content here.
We will eventually buy or build another, like, probably 5 or 10 years down the road.
Wait till your kids are like in a really good place, because I'll tell you this, like, our remodel in our house probably caused more marital. We've been through that with this a little bit, but my dad was always doing that my whole life. I just want to, like when we moved in here, I was just like, I don't want to do this. We scraped all the ceilings and all the rooms and a bunch of stuff, and they're still working on things. Nick McAllister texted me since we were just a second ago and was like, hey, when do you want me to do that? And he's replacing a bunch of my door frames and installing a door for me, and it's always something to do. That's the one thing I'll tell you. Make sure you talk a lot, plan it out, and, you know, probably plan for like 150% on a remodel.
Yeah, I've experienced that too. Budgets, like, cause man, you get to tearing into something, you're like, oh, I see here, I'm gonna have to replace this subfloor. Didn't see that coming. Like, when we moved in, we had to replace a substantial amount of subfloor in the kitchen, just because there were no gutters on the back of the house, and we did some water damage, but we didn't know there was tile underneath the laminate floor. And then we got the tile up and the subfloors, but man, that is the joys of home ownership. Honestly, like the pride that we feel because we've been through that.
That's definitely. Ask you a question. What book are you reading right now, or listening to?
Okay, so that one I mentioned earlier with Fire and Sword, Civil War text. Outside of that, there's Graham Hancock's new book, America Before. I haven't dug super deep into it. I bought the hard copy, and I'm probably going to go get the audio version, honestly.
What you can do is like take the hard copy out, look at it, put the audio like on two times speed,
yeah.
2 times speed, and that's what I'll do sometimes. I'm really trying to like hear, listen, see, you know, highlight, like trying to learn.
Yeah, but those, like, most of the stuff I'm consuming right now is like job related. Like, I love history books anyway, so it's like.
What's your favorite podcast to listen to?
Joe Rogan, honestly. Outside of that, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. There's another guy who's been on Joe several times. That's how I heard about him, named Danelli Balelli. He's had Jocko on his podcast. As a matter of fact, it's called History on Fire. I'd recommend it to you. They did a 3-way podcast where it was Danelli, then a second historian, I don't remember his name, and then that they did a third cast with Jocko. But what they did is they broke down the Sand Creek Massacre in Colorado. Then they broke down the My Lai Massacre in Vietnam.
I think I listened to part of it.
And then they sat down with Jocko and they compared, because they're both U.S. military committed atrocities.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most interesting podcasts I've ever listened to. It's just like a standalone thing, but Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, like,
I listened to him like going to Hawaii a couple of years ago because it's so long. I sit there just.
Which one did you listen to? The Cons?
I think it was
Wrath of the Cons. That's my favorite one. He did a new one somewhat recently called American Peril, about like,
I haven't listened to that one.
Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders. And
have you listened to one about the Supreme Court case about the American Indians in Oklahoma, about the guy that died? They're trying to they're trying to give the land back because they couldn't say the guy died. Who's on?
No, I
have to keep the name of it. So I thought about that. I consume little ones like that. I'll find and like sit there and binge them. And
I'm trying to think if there's any other good podcasts I've been listening to. Most of the ones I do listen to outside of Joe Rogan are history related, though. just because that, man, I watch a ton of documentaries. Like right now, like I'm teaching history of Christianity. That's the unit I'm on in my Civ 1 class. So like I've been consuming tons of Jesus documentaries like Timeline, Nat Geo. Those are the main ones that have a bunch of content on either life or teachings, movement of Jesus.
I went to Israel in February. Completely changed that whole view of biblical. I went with, like, it's kind of funny, with several pastors too, which it made it even different, but they were, our guy was actually Jewish. He wasn't a Christian, which is another showing you have this other view, talking about all the places, and to see like something so small.
Oh, I know, area. Right? Well, and then too, to know that Judaism and Christianity and Islam all lay claim to the same covenant, you know?
Yeah. And it was like, like too, and seeing how people still hate Christians. People, you could see the division in land in different places, some places we went to, but also how like part of Israel, part of Jerusalem was like, reminded me of Branson. You see like 37 buses, like, going down places, but then we went to some places kind of off, they had like shots fired one night, or up, so there's kind of, like, to me, I thought this is cool. Sit there, let's go see. But I was like, it's like somebody here be shooting over the fence though. I mean, like, just cause pop.
Yeah.
And, but it was definitely different. The Dead Sea down there. Went to one of the coolest things. I don't know if you ever heard of Masada. It's down by the Dead Sea. It's where, the Jews, I think it was around 80 AD, 70 AD, like held off the Romans for like 3 years. It's like up on this big platform, like a plateau, and they held them off. And they finally, the Romans took a bunch of Jews and made them build like a ramp up it, so they could finally, took them 3 years to do it, and they would sit there and just psychological break, kill people, but they're making the Jews build it up to them. And Masada is like one of the last stands, but they all committed suicide before. And supposedly like 1 or 2 people lived in the well. But when I was up there, I found some patina glass. You're not supposed to take anything, but I found it, and I got 3 knives made, like skinning knives for
cool.
For 2 friends, and one for myself for Judson. When it gets bigger, but it's got like a gut hook on it. But I put it in the pommel, like, but the patina. And my buddy told me that was his favorite place on his trip when he went a couple years before in Masada, and just sit there is one of the cool things.
Rome is such a fascinating topic. I never took a class. I took a class on Middle Ages. We talked about Rome a sizable amount. And then Renaissance. I took some classes where it was a topic, but man, to really dig into the kingdom, the republic, the empire, and then you dig into the empire, you wad that up and throw it out. We're just going to talk about Jesus and Christianity. Like, because outside of Rome, like, just a sizable topic, history of Christianity, kind of coincide, like a heads and tails of how I teach that unit.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there too. Like, you could go out and just what's going on in the rest of the world. I had a class, actually my undergrads in Bible, general ministries. A teacher called Biblical History and Background, and he taught like story. And he would tell what's going on in the world outside the Bible. Like, say you're reading it, the Syrians. One of my favorite things, hearing about, is how bad they were.
I did an hour and 37-minute podcast solo on the Assyrians.
Like why Jonah wouldn't want to go to Nineveh, because they'd have like, skulls like lined up, and people, it's like, why would you not really want to go there? Just, a lot of the stuff. And he was a great teacher about that. The things was going on outside the world, because so many times the culture we live in, like, it's biblical. People read the Bible and think King James. I was like, it's not. It's a way more difference in the culture, and understanding stuff there is way different. And that's what too, like, seeing going to the Wailing Wall. I went there a couple times. I like snuck off one time by myself, just so I wanted to go see, because they had like the boys. I think it was on Thursday. They did the bar mitzvahs. So all these teenage boys are coming through, and it was just like they're excited to be there. And there's people praying over there. I was like, there's guards around it. You have to go through security to get in there. And I'm just like, man, how weird is that?
It was weird seeing Trump at that wall. Was he not there?
I think
I'm pretty sure I have a memory.
Which that is like, but that was like, like I said, politicians, man, they're gonna do to get votes. And it's like Zuckerberg. I seen him on an old gas and oil thing with a hard head. I'm like, is he trying to run for president? Or, and you've seen the Bill Gates documentary. You watched it?
I haven't seen that yet. I mean, I'm charting it. I have not watched it.
Really good. But he talks about using nuclear energy again, which is smart. But the right can. But I was like, whoever thought somebody would say, talking about how we think of solar and winds, it's not going to be enough, because it takes so much to but he needs a clean way to do have power to power a world, which I was like, I can't believe they let him release it.
Yeah. Did you go into anything in that documentary about him having patents on weather control devices?
No, you're a conspiracy guy for sure. Have you seen that's funny. Have you seen, what's that one in Europe? It's got, it shows like the whole, it looks like a inverted, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I don't know. Maybe.
It looks like something off a movie, like sci-fi movie, but it's like a hole in the ground and supposedly like, what's it called?
It's not the super deep borehole, is it?
No, this thing looks like a space station in the ground, almost like a
interesting.
Like I have to find. I was like,
well, yeah.
I'll get stuck. I'll get in those rabbit hole stuff like that.
But yeah, so like I've heard this is that Bill Gates owns like all the weather control patents that exist, and that he has on the floor of the Atlantic all of these devices planted that have satellites that can heat up or cool down the ocean temperatures and stop, steer, or theoretically even create hurricanes.
I wouldn't, man. I don't know. There's some parts that, like you think about heating up the ocean, like,
or like, oh, we have a hurricane about to make landfall. Let's cool down or heat up or make the temperatures of the water as so that we can steer it the other way. Or I
wouldn't like put it past him trying to create something. 'Cause the month shows talking about how clean water, how one of the big things he tried to have clean water. So he's like, how do we do that? We got to take out the waste, have a composting toilet or something, because that's the big part. Like the water's what's making the water. They're just dumping it in the in the lakes, not lakes, but rivers or whatever creeks they have. And so he puts all these people, and they bring some ideas, but like they're like $50,000 for it. Come up, like he can't afford that. But he's talking about enabling people to contribute to that. How we can do that? But with Bill Gates too, man, like seeing some of the stuff he does, like it shows him I feel better about myself. He has like a bag of books he carries around all the time, and it was about what he's trying to learn at the time. And most of it was about poop, about water. All these things that showing me he's learning about, and how he's dead on about still how he's so driven too. I'm like, dude, you have billions of dollars, but you have a problem you want to solve. And I was like, too, there's conspiracies like that, man. I think there's way more stuff that we don't know about and probably would never know about. Even you heard about that in Damascus, 1979, when that guy dropped a wrench inside the.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm teaching about that on Monday. Titan II missile program. Yeah.
Oh, look. Did anybody know about that? We would never came to pass, like that.
Yeah. Oh man. My buddy Derek wrote his master's thesis on that, and I make my students read his master's thesis, but it's name of his master's thesis something super funny, like nuclear warheads in cow pastures or something like that.
Because that 1979, I don't like when they released it. It was like way, way after that, what actually happened. And how the guy got locked out.
It was 81 or something.
That guy got locked out and then couldn't get in. And like, I'm like, really? I'm like.
You ever seen Dr. Strangelove, the movie? That kind of reminds me. It's like they play that. The whole movie is to kind of satirize the idea that it's like, yeah, we let these people who've been through warfare and maybe have been traumatized have the nuclear codes. And maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe these Nazi scientists we have working for NASA, maybe that's not the best idea either.
Who's your favorite James Bond?
I like to give him a slap. Sean Connery.
Yeah, well, he's the best for sure.
Have you seen, do you know what I'm talking about? Him justifying slapping women, dude. What a piece of shit.
Well, he's so weird, dude, too. He passed up on Lord of the Rings. He's like, man, I thought it was some stupid. I'm like, dude, I was like the author. I was like, you don't think about him being.
The last good movie I really saw him in was that Entrapment movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
1999, man.
That's has he done anything since? The Rock, that came out in 1994 though.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. Last Crusade. Sean Connery. Yeah, he was probably my favorite Bond. I'm not a huge Bond fan. I should be bigger into. I took a class on espionage when I was, and it's an interest I have.
Yeah.
Intelligence work and stuff. But
so you watching Treadstone now?
No.
You know what it is, don't you?
What is that?
In the Bourne movies. Robert Ludlum. There's a USA series.
Yes, yeah. I know. I've seen it. I think it's on Hulu or something we have, but I haven't watched it. What's that other one that's the Jack Ryan? There's another show they have that's kind of
Jack Ryan's like off the there's like several movies, like Harrison Ford's Jack Ryan, Alec Baldwin's Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck was Jack Ryan.
I guess now it's a series they've made.
It's pretty good too, though. I mean, it's like I watched it, but he's an analyst, which I like that. It makes him he's not just some gung ho person, but he's like talking about Venezuela's like wide open for Russia to come, which is truth. They need money. It's like, hey, Russia, come here, put your missiles here.
Well, yeah, that's we're gonna experience a lot of those South American countries we tried to install democracy in the 60s and 70s, which is now failing. We're going to see a lot of other interest moving in. I think about South America is an interesting area, man.
I love our involvement. You ever been down there?
I've been to Mexico twice. I've never been, which is central, which I've never been to South America. No,
I've been to Peru and Ecuador, both missions trips, man. But I love it.
Did you see any Incan ruins in Peru?
No, I went to Lima, which is like the desert, which is so weird. It's like desert, dry. Then we flew into Iquitos, which is in the jungle. You can't drive there. You can get the boat or fly, which was completely different. And we got out Nada, which is really close to Amazon, the mouth of the Amazon. And
did you do any ayahuasca while you were down there?
I was on a missions trip. Did a lot of other stuff.
Okay, it's a religious thing down there.
But I really want to go back and go to Machu Picchu, though, because it's just the way the trip was. There's no way we could go. And I had a couple of friends. But it's like a long trip, train, because it's but you can get all three. You can be on the mountains, the desert, and go, rainforest in one country. It's not really that big. Yeah. And I want to go back there sometime. But it's a freaking hike, too. It's, the train and getting there. And, but it's a different world, man. I love foreign countries. That's one thing I want to take my kids to, more like third world. It's like, hey, they're pissing through a hole in the ground. But they have a TV watching soccer, but they have nothing, like nothing, one set of clothes and that's it. And, but content, they're happy, man. Just, that's completely, my kids have everything.
Perspective.
They're not bored. And Ecuador, same way. I went to, funny story, me and Heath Graham, we're in Ecuador, and we snuck out one night, and they told us do not leave. And there's like 1 million people. We're out in this. We get in our cab. It's me and him and Dave and these two other missionary assistants. Those little Datsun cars.
Yeah.
It's like all of us and a driver.
Nice.
First stop we go through. They don't stop. They just honk the horn. I was like, we're going to die. We're going to get T-boned.
Dude, I've been.
Nobody don't know where we're at.
I've been in some crazy Ubers in big cities with you have a foreign driver.
But think about a '78 model Datsun.
Oh man, yeah.
But it's a different world than, like you said. Venezuela too. Like that's what the Jack Ryan kind of interested me. Wanted to know more about, because he was teaching a class. And he was talking about how much, I knew that how much oil they had, but how much gold they have, and how, and how fast that company went from being up here to, just like they have food lines now, corruption, but how that leaves it wide open for China, for Russia, whoever wants to really make them a Cuba almost in a way,
Yeah.
You can have rockets in the U.S. in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's, it's an interesting strategic area for the U.S. and that's along those lines. Post World War II, the world has become such a complex and globalized place that the diplomacy that goes behind all this, like we just had a model UN conference at UCA a couple weeks ago, and I'm the faculty advisor, but just seeing them do mock parliamentary procedure and just sitting back and looking at all the complex issues at just that little mock thing. It's like with the Koreas and paranoias that these countries have about these other countries, and to know that it's not just existing in the way we're talking about in relation to us, but it's like you have somebody that's a delegation for some underdeveloped country, and they're they're worried about their neighbors and people in the vicinity and whether or not they're going to get aid from this, like what you're saying. It's like, what major superpower of a country, China, the United States, Soviet Union, Soviet Union, can support us, can back us, can we be allies with? And when you're a destitute country, or you're on the merge, or you're on the verge of not being underdeveloped anymore, what people are interested in you. And the United States has such a history of planning on down the road. Like, let's get involved now. And I think we're seeing a lot of that unwind right now.
I have a cousin. He's I think the right way to be contractor now. But he was in Panama when Panama was turned over. He was in London after the bombings. He's been in Ukraine the last 2 years, got pulled out. But he's been in all these unique places during. Yeah. He was officer. He was in Jordan too. He was an officer and he was a ranger, like ranger bat, and does all these odd jobs. He says he's a contractor pretty much. He travels around all these places. I always look now like back and I was like, you were here then, like. See,
well, the Green Berets in South America in the 60s is fascinating. Like pre-Green Berets in Vietnam, we had them packed into South America. What were they doing? I don't know. I have some ideas. I know some things, but it's like it's interesting that we had a in my research before, like everybody thinks Green Berets, they're like late 60s Vietnam, 68 Vietnam, and it's like we had them entrenched in South America in 64. So it's fascinating. I would like to have some more some special forces folks on the podcast.
I mean, most of the ones you meet are really different now, I should say.
My philosophy professor and mentor when I was in school, Charlie Bush, he's former Green Beret.
Yeah, and so like a lot of the SF stuff. I had talked to one guy. He went through school, like Q school, like 2 or 3 times, and he's like, they don't know what you're testing for. They're just seeing your reaction, and just some mental game. And just going. The military. When I was in basic training, I went to basic. I was 17 when I went to basic, and it's a mental game. There's a point you're like, hey, I'm not going to do anything right. Just do my best. They're going to sit there and find something. It's just the way it is, and they're trying to level you up and get everybody the same. And you see that, but I was like, on something like that, it's like, hey, I know what my standard needs to be. And with this, as when they go through like Q school, like they don't have a clue what their,
Did you watch the Snowden podcast on Joe Rogan? He was talking about his military service, and he broke both his legs going through an SF.
I believe it.
I can't remember if he was SEAL training or what, but literally, like, he had gotten these issues with like shin splints or something, and like he jumped off of a rock, and like he saw a snake. That's what he was doing. He's like stepping over a log or like gonna jump down. So he like jumped extra, and when he landed, it like snapped his legs, dude.
Like I remember this is like basic training. Like we was like 97. They're always experimenting in the military too. People don't realize that. And like easy basic, tough basic, and I was in combat, so like ours was crazy. They just did they sit there trying to mess with you, kind of see where your stress level's at. And dude, we had probably 25 people had stress fractures. He had like the little, I always joke, they call it the Chinese combat boots and jump boots, because they're like the little sandals, and a lot of them would get in they'd recycle them. They would go back. It's like, if you can't complete this, you're going to go back. And man, I was like, my leg is falling off. I'm not going and sit there. I was like, I'm going to graduate, sit there, because I was like, I want to go home. I don't want, sit there, cause, they make it horrible. I was like, there's no way I would even go to sit there unless I was dying. Sit there and go sit there to sick bay. And,
how long were you in the military?
I was 97 when I started. I joined in 97 right when I graduated high school, and I got out in 2005. I had I had a break of service, and I was in active ready reserve, which every military contract is 8 years, no matter what. And sometimes you'll be in our inactive ready reserve, like you'll serve 4, then have 4 or 6 by 2. And I moved, so I like 2. I went as a combat engineer, because I could blow up stuff, which, I grew up, had the cheap James Bond, the had anarchist cookbooks. So, I mean, I love making bombs as a kid. I don't anymore, but combat engineer, you get the Bangalore torpedoes, their landmine and stuff. But it was one of those things too. You don't. I wanted to join the Navy. My mom wouldn't sign for me because I was 17. Because I qualified for the nuke program, and she's like, "I don't want you to be gone," but she signed for me to be a combat engineer. But it's pre-2000, so you don't think about. But if I went back to, I wish I would have went active duty, just because I was full of piss and vinegar and couldn't be told a whole lot. I think that would have been a good 4 years for me, something like that, or at least that, just to see. And but it was one of the things, I made a lot of really good friends, and never got deployed. But I finished my last 3 years as a chaplain assistant, which was completely different from combat engineer.
Yeah.
And,
I bet.
But it was really good for me too, because I got to be around all these guys that were chaplains of different denominations and different beliefs, which was kind of cool. You see how you think this is, the way you're raised, that this is goodness. I was like, this guy's a jerk. I was like, you don't like soldier, because I was like, that's the thing, you're serving people, and especially coming home. There's 2005 people were coming up in deployments. I'm like, hey, let's make sure and take care of guys. And a lot of them, like reentry, I helped work on, like, they were doing like in like New Orleans and Orlando, like husband and wife would go to how to reconnect, but have like a nice room and have fun, dinner, but it'd be like a 2-hour thing, and help set up some of that stuff at Fort Hood. But I've always like been enamored with the military because of Rambo, because of Mission Action too, because those movies, man, they sit there, Red Dawn, sitting there, but I was like, sit there, running, I had my survival knife, like, because like, John Rambo running through the woods, machete, when I was like 10, sitting there chopping stuff down. And I think to my kids, I was like, this thing about Judson, I was like, what do I want to sit here to really know about that kind of stuff? And that's why I love guns too. But I was like, I'm not really a gun guy, but I love to shoot and love, it's fun to see that stuff. But man, those guys, like, it's kind of like, you said how big the world is. Like last weekend watching Ryan and Daniel Shaw like shoot. They're like something you'd see on, they're shooting pistols at 60 yards, right? I can already see it with the rifle, and shooting it, several times. They're sitting there shooting laying down with on one foot, having one shooting on cracks like this, and offhanded, shooting one-handed. They're doing drills like they're doing one-handed drills, rifle drills, showing how firefights, or if you're injured or all this stuff. I'm like, man, these guys are way above and beyond, but they train. It's like that's repetitive.
Like McMillan, man, he's like, yeah, I just got to teach this class on tourniquets, and I'm just like, oh, you've taken it to a whole other place than me, man. Like,
like Ron, he gave me a tournament kit. It's just fun. That's just
that's how they work, dude.
I was like, you can give me some tampons too to shove in there, like. It's like, but at the same time too, it's like, hey, how do you respond too? Because even with like concealed carry, it's like, hey, if you have a gun, if you're not going to use it, they're going to use it against you probably. Yeah. And those things that you have to teach, and not really tell fear, but tell the truth and those stuff. But those guys, like I said, a whole other level of, in training and stuff, and you see them, and it's, to me, I love seeing people that's mastered something too, or they're getting close, they're not saying they've mastered, but they're at a level like way
a level of mastery. Yeah. Like, or, it's like the black belt in martial arts, man. Like, it took me over 11 years to earn my jiu-jitsu black belt, and then like a lot of people would look at me and be like, bro, you black belt, you made it. And I'm just like, literally just began, guys. Like, this, like, what's next? Like, it's a level of mastery. Everybody views me as just like, oh, you're a black belt. But it's like, even new black belts, and I'm just like, I've been a black belt for a year and a half now, and I was like, what's the big deal here? Like, that's why I've kind of cued in on this. Most people that are great don't even know they're great.
Yeah, I totally. What's funny, like, we had this discussion with Ryan, because Sean knows him really well too about, he's like, dude, ask him about doing some certain, he's like, well, I can't do anything until I become a black belt. That's
like, a weird, you mentioned it earlier. I had that perception, and like why I was thinking about having people around me encourage me to create is because I actually had people around me discouraging me to create because I wasn't a black belt. And
I was like, because some things too, I was like, it's like you're sitting there saying you can't do this, and we're sitting there blasting him. We made him mad too, which is funny. I was like, if we didn't make you mad, you wouldn't remember this. I was like, if we sitting there just being sweet about it. Yeah. And those things too, where I think you're always going to have, think you need people to tell you no, not just yes people in your corner, but you also need to say, hey, this person speaking to me, where are they speaking from? Are they speaking out of my best interest or out of their interest or out, out of they have nothing really
what's the lens?
Yeah. And also too is like, am I breaking a new barrier? That's what I loved about the other day about that Edward Norton Jr. He talked about how, Hendrix, broke through this thing, how Bob Dylan, those things. And I was like, hey, there's things like that. It's not new, but it's different. And it's not, and I was like, is that you, or, what are you teaching? And it's like martial arts. You've seen, he talked about the Gracies too, how that completely changed, there, how, and it's still changing. And even UFC, you see how people used to be, it had one thing they were good at, they're good at stand up or good up at ground. And now there's kids training UFC that's going to be, it's training all these different domains and modalities. And when they get grown.
Yeah, it is. Oh man. Well too, like I wonder how many times throughout history we've been at some sort of similar level of combat sports. Like, because honestly, what we're discovering about CTE and stuff right now, it's like, oh, okay, I get why we were point sparring and why Asian martial arts don't hit people in the head typically. Like with like punches to the head and like boxing, just like all of these subtle differences. And you look at how the sport point sparring rules and like traditional martial arts evolved to like mostly hit the body with some really nasty kicks, which are still legal for the head. I never got that. But then I kind of get, it's like, I honestly think it's like at some point you guys realize, like, probably because your best friend lost his mind with a mental illness from getting hit in the brain too much.
Yeah, I mean, like the NFL right now is having a huge deal. I mean, you've seen these guys that are committing suicide, and I mean, like
I'm
a huge Patriots fan. That's my team. But Gronkowski retired. People are like, why did he retire? Peak of his career. I was like, he's had 20 concussions because he just lays his body on the line. They said he might come back. I was like, he's had so many. He knows that if he doesn't,
dude, I've seen people with 3 concussions that struggle.
Oh yeah, and that's where too people like within counseling and therapy we see people TBIs, especially if you know before and after. It's it's sad. I mean, it's one of those things that and sometimes they it's like personality. It's like you see complete changes, man.
Oh yeah. I had a kid get knocked out somewhat recently. And he got hit a few times. He's kind of smaller, and he got rocked a few times. And he said he'd had a concussion previously. And like, I will not let this kid spar anymore. I'm just like, yeah, dude, you're gonna train for like 6 more months. We might let you get back out there. It's like, dude, like what I saw happen to you, like that ain't happening again. I was just like, I saw him the other day. I was like, Howie, how are you recovering from your traumatic brain injury, bro? I was like, you're not getting man, this. Getting educated on that, like I've completely in the last 5 years changed the way I approach sparring a couple of times because of findings, evidence, paranoias, and it's like you can do it, you can spar, but it's like sparring, and you almost can't develop the killer instinct without sparring hard a little bit. That's the downside. It's like, so then it's like, oh, you have a fight coming up. Okay, now we're gonna be savages for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and it's controlled outside of that, but
you also see like people that get injured in that time. Do you remember what's his face? UFC. I can't. Most famous UFC guy right now.
Khabib?
No, not him, but the mouthiest one.
Conor McGregor? Yeah, there's the proper whiskey over there, yeah.
So, I can't remember that. Completely, like, see Notorious, I could see, like, the documentary and him on the bus. But I could, like, right before, I mean, he's going hard. Right before his fight, he gets in, sit there. Was it, 4 years ago? And that's when you start going 100%, right, and that's when stuff happens, though, because it's just the wrong, elbow, wrong fist, wrong, you catch something.
Yeah, well, man, and too, like, what's so weird is, like, getting my neck back in good standing. I didn't realize how bad I was jacked up until it got fixed. And then I could, like, look without pain and all these things. I was like, I didn't know. And, like, that was all from I think, and like my doctor thinks so. It's like, yeah, that's from getting hit. That's from this happening all the time. like getting your head snapped back, getting your jaw turned sideways. But like, man, like that, like with where my neck hurts and some of the issues I've had, like with my neck and jaw, it's like this is doing that super hard for 10 years.
So wait till you're like 40, 50.
Well, I've wondered, like I was just thinking about that a couple of days ago. I'm like, you don't think about like we're talking about, like, it's gotta be bad if you see symptoms in the person, like, let's just say, you know, and they're still a young person. But like, you don't think, like, what the thing is like how your brain is going to age and deteriorate over time, you know. Pupper man out there, Corey must be home. He's a good guard dog. He usually barks at nothing though, and in the middle of the night.
Oh, he's excited. He's excited to see her. That's, I mean, that too, Alzheimer's, all the things we got going on with that. And, you know, and people, when you see a real brain, how it floats, you know.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, people don't realize, you know, sit there. And even the impacts, like the wrecks. I did an endo-rim flip, like Dukes of Hazzard, went in the air and, you know, hit the nose first and over. And a Ford Ranger, man. And it hurt. You know, you hit solid. And I was sitting there because the doctor asked me about wrecks, and I was like, and I got rented by a highway department truck on Highway 7. I got rented in front of PDQ. I just had my foot on the brake. It got,
man.
You know, like different things. I remember that when the tape had a tape deck. The tape went flying back. You know, you seen it because I had my foot on the brake because it hit me so hard. And but you think about your body, a lot of times emotion, people don't realize when you're hitting something. And last year in Hawaii, I jumped off a cliff about 40-something feet. And two people jumped off, looked like they'd been beat. You know, they kind of leaned a little bit sideways. And I'm like, I was making fun. I was like, what's wrong with y'all? You know, sit there just talking trash to them. And it's my buddy's wife. And then she had to go to the daggum doctor. I mean, her whole black and blue from her ankle up to her side, you know. And I think she get PTSD every time she sees cliffs now. But, you know, things like I've jumped off stuff like that. You don't think about just a little bit.
We had a student that broke their back jumping off like the Narrows or something. That like they fought in boxing a couple of times. They did jiu-jitsu. They were active. They were losing weight. Like they were getting in shape, and like now their back's broken. Like they're never going to do it. Like every time they they stayed with it trying to work out for a long time, and then just gave up. Where it's like, because every time, like, it was weird how it fractured their back like across horizontally, like where you like right where they would bend over. So it was like a low back injury, if my memory serves me correct. But dang,
that's crazy. Because it's like, you know, like I did the MRI stuff in my back and my neck, so the issues. And it's like, your neck's too straight. And he got one of those little, have you seen this, like, you know, seen the neck, you can put you on the door to hold your neck up?
Yeah.
But I got another one, you lay on the ground, it's like a traction, and you pump it up.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Slowly. But I do that pretty often.
Here's a good one I've been doing is putting something like a pillow type something under your neck and laying flat on your back and then raising your legs up like this, like where you get like your legs go up and then they turn it at 90. And when you do that, driving your neck back into, so like what I do, you know, the foam rollers a lot of time have the skinnier one inside of it. That's like the perfect size for that, because it keeps just the back of your head off the ground just a little bit. But I've been getting that, and man, any kind of traction, I'm all about it. I do this for people all the time. Their low back hurts. If you lay on your belly and have somebody pick your feet up, and if you can totally relax your legs, it will traction your low back.
Have you seen Louis Simmons? It's like West Side Barbell. There's a documentary out. There's a thing they invented called the reverse hyper.
Oh yes. No, I know what you're talking about. Joe is big on that.
I want to buy one because, you know, you're traction your back, so you sit there, you hold on, you're spinning weights. But I'll do it like in the pool. I get outside and put like towels on the side and put my gut, and you sit there and hang, you know, my feet and pull down and push up because just enough weight, it pulls off. You know, it's kind of weird. You're sitting there and you're not doing a whole lot of weight, but the way the reverse hyper, you're holding on. And you're just kicking back, and you put, you know, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. Because you met Adam Settle, haven't you? You know, he's one huge strength conditioning guy. He's like, and I was like, I need to buy a reverse hyper for my house and just, you know, but they're expensive though, because there are only a couple of companies that make them.
They about $500 or something or more?
I think, well, if you get, I think 500 to 1,000. You know, it depends if you find it used.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those things you only use it for that, and
it is. It's super niche.
But I'll do like we have the GHDs at CrossFit. I'll grab some, you know. You can grab the GHDs, the bottom up, and swing up, and you can cup like a 10-pound or something dumbbell.
Well, yeah, okay. So more companies are making it. Rogue makes one for $800. Titan makes one for $480.
then you got the shipping because they weigh about
80
pounds. They're heavy.
Yeah, and I bet this isn't one of those Amazon Prime Black Friday shipping.
That's a great time to buy stuff.
I know, dude. That's why I was kind of talking to you about some of the. I want to be upgrading the equipment for the old podcast here a little bit. So
that is a perfect day to do that. You sit there and definitely you can watch stuff now so much. You can put stuff on there.
Yeah. Well, dude, we've been rocking it for 3 hours.
Dude,
man.
I didn't know talking that long.
Yeah, no, hey, that's totally fine. I've been kind of limiting my podcast more because, like, honestly, this has been great because we haven't had any like downtimes, and like we usually, but I've been trying to ask people like, hey, you want to do an hour? You want to do an hour and a half? Because sometimes it's helpful, and sometimes people will not tell you, and then be like, I gotta go get my kid. I gotta leave like 5 minutes ago.
I'd say I gotta go. So I want to say something really quick, man. I want to say I really appreciate what you and Cora have done for our community. Like, man, you guys add value to it.
I appreciate that, man.
Seriously though, it's like, to kids and to grown-ups, and you make a safe place to train to. I don't think some people have ever been to other places to get beat up. And I have a friend, in Tennessee, when I talk about. He had to have neck surgery because he had a guy just abuse him in there, which was I'm like, wow, teacher. And the guy, this guy was in the military, smart, and strong. And the guy just, sit there and just, and then he tapped, what his name, but he was like, you don't hurt somebody. And, but I was like, it's a safe place. You guys provide a safe place. I think, male, female, old, young, and all the people, man, it's one thing I hope my back neck doctor releases me, because rolling the classes at noon in the morning classes, man, the guys are all good and respectful, which, like I said, you don't find that everywhere. There's no egos there, and that's a huge deal. And adding to the community, just other things you're doing too and teaching, and I'm excited to see the future for you guys and what's going to happen.
Me too, man. There's a little bit there's just excitement, not uncertainty, because we're about to move. We're about to double our square footage from 4 to 8,000, so possibilities are endless. But we've been working on getting this going for like 14 months now, and did not originally plan on moving, just because honestly it's a timing thing. The opportunity was never there. We were trying to build, and this is going to be the best scenario though, so we're pumped, and hopefully we can do better than what you think right now. That's the goal. It's like, man, I feel like we've been, in my mind as a business owner, it's like we've been kind of sucking for the last year because car accidents happen in the parking lot, and it's too crowded, and it's good problems to have.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff like that means growing pains, so that's the right. But you guys are going the right direction, though. I mean, too, the city stuff is stupid. I mean, still stupid to me. But I was like, past that, I was thinking about like perseverance and like good business people, like, what's this is an opportunity. You get a place that doubles your size, and still close to tech, still close to easy.
Well, and
to.
This is like, and it only shook out like within about $15,000 swing, more financially beneficial than it would have been if we would have built, or if we even looked at another location over. It was a gymnastics place that went out, but we're back and forth with them a little bit. Like we told them we wanted to look at it as soon as they put it on the market, and then they raised it $100,000. Like, I have a screenshot before and after, and I was just like, I think they thought that they were going to sit on it for a long time. They had just closed it 2 weeks earlier, and it was over there by Nick and Jessica at Sign Hub. It's right back at very back in there. But that's the only other thing that even remotely presented an opportunity of buying. And then Jamie just happened to hear about our city woes and was like, I'd love to sell you this. I got a deal for you. So it's really worked out great, man.
No,
so,
thanks again for having me on too.
Hey, well, dude, I know you're a busy guy. You got trips coming up and back for trips, and we had talked about podcasting before, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. And any recommendations? Plug your podcast real quick as well, and anything you would like to say.
My podcast, Forged by Fire, me and Ryan Stevens talk about being dads, husbands, trying to be men, good men at that, and trying to still train and do fun stuff. And that Forged by Fire is the name of it. Then also my wife, You're Worth It, definitely self-worth podcast for women. I'm really proud of her. And
that's a cool name. You're Worth It.
Yeah, just thinking about self-worth, because she's like a wallflower, introvert, so really she speaks about fear and a lot of stuff, she's overcame. Excited about that, man. But just like I said, learning and seeing curiosity, and man, just keep reading people. Be curious, man. Go out there and do something. Find out something. Small business, small business. Yeah. Excited. That's why I'm so excited for you guys to grow.
Likewise. Well, what's for dinner? You said you're having dinner getting cooked right now.
Man, I don't know. I have like the best Natalie. Give her a shout out. Bill Clinton pitcher. Take her with her this week, and so I can give her a hard time. Hopefully, she'll cook something good. She cooks like twice a week. I'm kind of sad about her going on for Christmas vacation because I'm like, man,
Cora she's been on a roll lately. She's a good cook, and
to come over here and eat some dinner. Then
I'm really I'm fortunate. Well, man, I would love to get together again, whether it's another podcast or I would
have you on hours soon.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. I've been asked to go on one podcast as like Bryant, and I didn't do it. I did a podcast on the phone one time with somebody. They called me. They have the phone set up, and that's how they like to do them. So
you can come to my house and do it.
Yeah. Well, man, I would love to. And in the meantime, too, so I was going to say, so like in closing, on your jiu-jitsu, you might think about like just if you wanted to like you're overcoming injuries. It's more like is getting somebody to do privates with, man.
That's what I was going to ask you. Because I asked Cora when I first came, she's like, Brian doesn't do privates.
I have not been doing.
Unless you're very special. And I was like, what is that concept?
Yeah. Well, she's just saying what I told her to say, really, because man, there was a time where I had to really cut them back down. It was right when I started teaching. That's probably right when you started coming in, and for so long that was like the supplement of my income is I would do privates with people, but. Whether it's with me or anybody, and I would be open to that. Nick Oots is actually the only person I still work with. So, and awesome. Nick, he usually works with me on Friday mornings. So, but I would be open to something like that. And like with your injuries, though, that's the only reason I bring that up, because with an instructor, it's so much more controlled, and like you don't feel like rolling that day. Like Nick and we roll sometimes. But man, I let him work. I'm like, dude, just do your thing, man. Like I can stop you from hurting me. We'll be fine. But he's like a freaking Tasmanian devil. He's like a little dude and can move.
Dude, I've known him like 20 years. Dude.
He's such a good dude. He does so much good stuff for our brand.
Yeah, he's a good. Yeah,
he and Jessica both.
They're great people.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. Again, thank you. Signing off. We'll wrap it up here. Thanks, guys.